Ooh, that was loud. Good evening. Please take your seats. We are going to get this meeting started. Please take your seats. We're going to get this meeting started. Before we call the meeting to order, I would like to read the city's land acknowledgement. The West Hollywood City Council acknowledges that the land on which we gather, and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood, is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Quiche peoples. I am calling this meeting of the March 3rd, 2025 City Council to order. It is 6:01 p.m. Will we please have the West Hollywood Elementary kindergarten and first grade students and Girl Scout troop please come up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, overtime now.
Yep, come on. Please stand. Oh, right here. Thanks, John.
That's great.
Whenever you're ready. Go ahead. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can take your seats, please. We'll call you right back up in just a moment. Thank you so much. What a great way to start off Women's History Month, I believe. City Clerk, maybe please have a roll call.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Erickson.
You go to me first, by the way. Now here. Sorry, absolutely.
Councilmember Hang.
Present.
Councilmember Meister.
Here.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
Here.
Mayor Byers.
Present.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. City Clerk, are there any changes from staff on tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there is one change, and it is on consent calendar item. I apologize. Let me grab it.
B13.
Sorry. It is the agreement for services with Rincon Consultants to provide temporary planning staff services, item B7. The recommendation says that it's a not to exceed amount of $200,000. It's $200,000 per fiscal year, not to exceed $400,000. So the attachment included with the packet is correct. The recommendation in the agenda was not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do my colleagues have any changes for the agenda?
Yep.
Would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to see if we can move F5, West Hollywood Library donor plaques to consent.
Yep.
Great. I would like to see if we could move F3, the pre-approved organizations and events to consent. Okay. I'm sorry. E1, the amendment to the minimum wage enforcement with LA County.
How about F4?
I'm fine with that. I don't know if any of my colleagues have questions or comments or anything.
I think it's clear to me.
And what about F6?
I'm fine with that one. Great. I think that's
Anything else? Did we clear the agenda? Okay.
May I ask a question, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Madam City Clerk, could we, I know F7, the appointments, is later in the agenda. Is it possible for us to make direct appointments and move it to consent in that way if we're all ready to do that? Or should we wait till F7 so some people that may be here tonight on that item, like, don't have to wait all night?
So I currently don't have anyone here for F7. I think it's cleaner because all the council members will be making appointments. If it were just one, we've done that in the past, but I think multiple would be a little challenging.
That makes sense.
Any other changes or questions? Okay, terrific.
Great. Oh,
Yes,
Motion?
the screen is not coming up.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, Madam City Clerk,
Okay.
to approve
Second.
the agenda.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Erickson and a second from Vice Mayor Heilman. to adopt tonight's agenda.
Madam City Clerk, can you please note my no vote on item B13?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
One more time, Councilmember Meister. And then the motion passes 5-0.
And we have an agenda. Thank you all. We'll move on to Levine Act disclosures. Can my colleagues just quickly review the agenda and report any Levine Act disclosures that you may have? Thank you.
I have no
None?
disclosure.
None? Okay, I think we're
I
set.
have
No
no disclosures.
disclosures.
No
Apologies.
disclosures? Okay. Councilmember Hang, no disclosures? Okay. Do we have any adjournment motions for this evening?
Yes, I'm just trying to pull it up.
No?
I do have one.
Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I wanted to adjourn in memory of longtime and former LGBT or LGAB Advisory Board member Robert Gamboa. His mother passed away this past a few days ago. I'm trying to pull up the information, but for sake of time, I'll do due diligence at the next council meeting after I'm able to talk with him. But I wanted to make sure we adjourned in memory of his mother who passed away.
Thank you. Are there any other adjournment motions this evening? Okay. Then we will move forward with the agenda to presentations. We have one formal presentation to give, but first I'm going to invite our Girl Scouts and kindergarten and first graders from West Hollywood Elementary back up. We have certificates to give to Imani, Isla, Alessandra, Emma, and Margot for their terrific job in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much.
That was great. I think I have her first name. Can you just correct the record real quick? Gamboa, Robert Gamboa. Madam City Clerk, it's Lupe Gamboa, was Robert's mother's name, Lupe.
Thank you. And we want to send an adjournment letter.
Yes. I'll get you the information.
And as our terrific Pledge of Allegiance Girl Scout troops are leaving the room, we thank you all so much for being here tonight, kicking us off for Women's History Month. I will pivot to our formal presentation, which is to recognize National Women's History Month, which we are officially in now in the month of March. Yeah. I will begin reading this and just have to say, as a woman on this council and the opportunity to lead and serve as mayor of the city at this time, it's a real honor to get to recognize this month especially. And I will begin. Whereas the month of March is nationally recognized as the National Women's History Month, a time to commemorate and reflect upon the many accomplishments of women and the ongoing efforts to achieve equal rights. And whereas National Women's History Month provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate women's historic achievements, as well as honor women within our communities. And whereas the city of West Hollywood has celebrated National Women's History Month for 39 years, and together with its Women's Advisory Board, works to ensure that programming reflects the diverse women's achievements and is offered all throughout the month. Whereas the city's programming for National Women's History Month 2025 includes collaborations with the city's Russian-speaking advisory board, the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission, along with the city's arts division. Highlights include the Women's History Month street pole banners displayed along Santa Monica Boulevard and the unveiling of 2 new banners. The globes on Santa Monica Boulevard will be lit in purple and yellow, symbolizing the suffrage movement. An International Women's Day celebration, the 9th annual Hollywood Now Herstory Awards, the West Hollywood V-Day and 1 Billion Rising commemoration, the WeHo Reads Feminism and Fearlessness event, the Sexual Healing Age Positive, Sex Positive, a women's sexual health event, and the 28th annual West Hollywood Women in Leadership Awards and Receptions, which is co-sponsored by the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. It's gonna be a busy month. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of West Hollywood hereby proclaims the month of March 2025 as National Women's History Month in the City of West Hollywood and urges members of the community to participate in these celebratory activities. At this time, I would like to invite members from the city's Women's Advisory Board in attendance up to the dais to take a photo with us. Thank you all so much. Yay!
On behalf of the Women's Advisory Board for the city, I thank you so much for the proclamation and for recognizing this very important month for women all over the world. I won't repeat all of the activities, and as you see, we are very busy this month. But I would like to say that the banners that will be unveiled, that the 2 women that are being honored, one is the artist Judy Baca, who is responsible for the largest mural in the world, which is located in Van Nuys, which is called The Great Wall of Los Angeles and depicts the story of our region. And the second recipient is Jamie Lee Curtis, the actress and advocate for so many issues, including women's rights. I also want to announce very quickly that the recipients of our Women in Leadership Awards will be Dr. Bobby Amuto, professor, activist, and therapist; Ala Feldman, community outreach consultant; Elizabeth Lehman, PhD, and the principal of West Hollywood Elementary; Tara Russell Slavin, Chief Impact Officer of the Los Angeles LGBT Center; and Heather Tierney, founder and creative director of The Butcher's Daughter, who is the recipient of the Phyllis Morris Award for Excellence in Design and Entrepreneurship. I am proud and actually surprised that with the amount of times that we meet as a board, that we can coordinate and plan all these activities and successfully pull them off. I mean, we've had quite a few. I've only been with the board for 2 years, and we have already, and I'm not including all, we have done things from art exhibits to pop-ups on Santa Monica Boulevard to the incorporation of International Day of Recognizing Violence Against Women. We have been a part of that program. We have supported the large installation of the Equal Means Equal, which was a successful action in which one of our liaisons incorporated the commissions throughout California to participate. And we have also added participation in a health fair to work on women's health issues, including breast cancer awareness. So I am very happy that you all stand behind us. It means so much, and I'm confident you'll continue to do so. And now, this wonderful, passionate woman who is expecting any day now would like to just read a poem, I think.
And it's a girl, how appropriate for Women's History Month. So here's a poem by Nikita Gill, an ode to fearless women. Defined by no man, you are your own story, blazing through the world, turning history into her story. And when they dare tell you about all the things you cannot be, you smile and tell them, I am both war and woman, and you cannot stop me. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at all the events.
Thank you. Thank you so much, the members of the Women's Advisory Board, Deb, Angela, for being here. We really appreciate you. We're going to move on to the public comment tonight. The City Council values your comments. However, pursuant to the Brown Act, the Council cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. The public comment period is limited to 20 minutes, with 2 minutes allotted for each speaker. This public comment period is to address the City Council on consent calendar items, other agenda items, if the members of the public cannot be present at the time the item is considered, or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Another period is also reserved for general comment later in the meeting for those that could not be heard at this time. Public hearing testimony will only be taken at the time of the hearing. If you've signed up to speak on both consent calendar items and general public comment, as well as an item that was moved to the consent calendar, you may take this public comment period to speak on consent calendar items. You may also sign up to speak during the second public comment period for your general public comment. Lastly, speakers should not bring any items to the podium other than a prepared written statement and/or writing materials. Madam City Clerk, how many speakers do we have signed up tonight in chambers?
We have 14 individuals in chambers, and we don't have any in Zoom.
Okay, terrific. That's just about, getting close to the 20 minutes allocated. Let's see how we do, and we'll keep posted on that. And if anybody else has not filled out a speaker slip but intends to sign up tonight, please do so. We'll begin with our first comment, and it is Nick Wyville from the Human Services Commission, followed by Yola Duray, followed by Louise Smith.
Good evening, is it on? Yes, good evening, council members and Mayor Byers. I'm Nick Wyville from the Human Services Commission. Happy to be here tonight. Before I begin, would like to remind all of the members of the community that our Human Services Commission contracting process is about to become underway for the next 3 years of social services that the city contracts with. So encourage every member of the community to join us, to make your voice heard of what you want to see our city invest in for our community. I'm here today because March is National Nutrition Month, and I want to highlight some important facts from the Human Services Commission. A recent study from 2023 revealed that food insecurity rose and 30% of households are affected nationally. The hardest hit groups include women, low-income families, and adults aged 18 to 40. This lack of access to healthy foods contributes to chronic health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and mental health disorders. The City of West Hollywood and the Human Services Commission work together on providing free food resources to all impacted community members. Jewish Family Services offers a food pantry, home-delivered meals, nutrition education, plus a grocery pop-up at Plummer Park. Project Angel Food delivers medically tailored meals to those with serious chronic illnesses. The LA LGBT Center's Senior Services provides congregate meals, weekly groceries, and a monthly farmer's market. Seeds of Hope offers fresh produce, nutrition education, and healthy cooking at Plummer Park. And APLA supports people living with HIV/AIDS with groceries and nutrition counseling. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out to the Human Services Division or call us at 323-848-6510. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Louise Smith, followed by Yola Duray. I might have mixed those up, sorry. Is that on? 1 second, Louise. City Clerk's coming over to help you. Oh, and Rick's got it.
Thank you. Sorry about the logistics here. Mayor and council members, thank you, and thank you for your service to our city. Louise Smith, long-term resident of West Hollywood, actually since 1986. I wanted to speak on F2. I really am not in favor of it. I just wanted to put that on the record. The reason I feel that in order to get a good representation from the community, and we have a very diverse community, that I think it would be best to pretty much leave it as is, but at your discretion, look at the individual boards and commissions to see where information could be consolidated or fit into less frequent meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Yola Dure, followed by David Nash. Yeah.
Madam City Clerk, maybe in the future before council meetings, we can make sure the podium and everything are ergonomically friendly to our friends in all communities. This is the second time that I believe Board Member Smith has had to move the microphone and other times, so let's not happen a third time.
Okay.
Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and honored guest. Yola Dore, 30-plus years disabled residents. Happy Lundi Gras,
Oh.
the day before Mardi Gras, and I'm wearing something special because of that. It's the color purple, and it signifies justice. That's precisely what I want to talk to you about. Justice relating to the ADA, relating to accessibility. And in this case, accessibility to information, accessibility for our residents disabled in the city that might need to find out and get educated about things. And accessibility to you. We might need to bring you advice on different issues. So I urge you to consider leaving the meetings to 12 a year, and if not, if you cut it down, at least 8. But please, please, don't cut it down to 6. I don't think we can get anything done that way. I don't think we'll have inroads. And I'm hoping we'll do better and better. Considering what's happening in Washington, we really need to have these meetings often. Thank you.
David Nash, followed by Deborah Turok, followed by Todd Hallman.
Thank you. David Nash, 26-year resident. Good evening to the mayor and vice mayor pro tem and council members. I'm here also to speak on the subject of the proposed reductions to boards and commissions. Things that we have to do on the, pardon me, I'm not supposed to say it, but things that are done on boards include health fairs, an award show here, many presentations that are brought to us from the city projects, things that public comment brings up, and things that we have on our plate ourselves. It's hard to get things done at 12 meetings. I can't imagine getting those things done and taken care of in just 6. Some things that have been brought to my attention that we haven't dealt with or brought to you include, someone just brought to my attention the lack of places for disabled people to park in our main parking lot here. It seems well below the ratio of 1 to 20 that the city sponsors. I also have concerns about the yellow caps that are at crosswalks. They're only being put in when a building is remodeled. They're useful to people with disabilities, and they should be throughout our main thoroughfares. At San Vicente and Santa Monica, there's only one on the 4 corners. Also, I can't remember everything, but there are issues brought to our attention that that require time to take care of, and we value the time and appreciate you not reducing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, followed by Todd, followed by Tony Solano.
Hello, everyone.
You can lower the mic a little bit if that helps. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, thank you. There has never been a more important time for citizens to be protected and to have important issues addressed. I feel that to limit the power of any of our advisory boards in the city of West Hollywood would do a great damage to increasing awareness and supporting people that need our support right now. I feel that this could not have come at a worse time to propose this. There are, and I'm trying very hard to understand, I know that certain boards have liaisons to other boards, try to connect with them, and also try to connect with other commissions throughout this, throughout the state. To limit the amount of time that we meet and to actually cut it in half would diminish some of those meetings. I know some of those meetings are held every month, and a board that is representing West Hollywood would not be able to be there or participate or communicate back and forth with their board about what's happening with other commissions throughout the state of California. I know that partnerships throughout the state, throughout our city and through even internationally that can be formed will be interrupted by only having 6 meetings per year. Cutting meeting times in half will result in cutting activities, and those members of the boards who already work outside of the 12 meetings will be given even more work, and there'll be less participation with other members because of less contact. I am respectfully requesting that the action to cut city board meeting times in half be revisited, and that the work of each individual board be examined to determine if this drastic action is appropriate for each board. As a woman who loves this city and has worked on issues for many, many years, I am asking you not to diminish the ability of your advisory boards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Todd Hallman, followed by Tony Solano, followed by Nicole Sanford.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Todd Hallman. I'm a 30-plus year resident of the city of West Hollywood, as well as a public safety commissioner, but tonight I'm speaking as a resident that has a concern. On the east side, primarily for most of Detroit I can speak on behalf of, we've been under construction for almost a decade, and it is constant chaos. And it's not controlled chaos. And this has nothing to do with our code compliance department, because I love our code compliance officers. But as residents, we are constantly plagued with crews arriving early, sometimes as early as 6:30 a.m. In fact, another developer sent me a text because he was upset because a crew was lobbying their trucks in front of his development, and he was afraid he would be blamed for it. We have cracked sidewalks. We don't have the proper signage and fencing that's up. We recently had a contractor who got into a verbal altercation with residents over parking spaces. I'm all for building. I love building, but we need controlled chaos, not chaos. The east side needs help, and I'm sure there are other areas in the city that are experiencing the same issues. And again, our codes compliance officers are amazing. Maybe they need additional help. I don't know what the solution is, but I really would like for council to take a look at this and come up with a reason and help solve the problem. And another issue I hear constantly from developers is getting permitting done. They complain they have to wait and wait and wait. And what staff may not realize is at the end of the day, that affects the residents because it holds these projects up. Thank you.
Tony Solano, followed by Nicole Sanford, followed by Jerry Luckenbach. Sorry if I didn't say that right. Hello?
Good evening, council members. I would like to say thank you for inviting our elementary school kids, especially my daughter, to come say the Pledge of Allegiance. That was pretty amazing to watch. Very good experience for them. Again, my name is Tony Solano. I'm a 10-year resident, small local business person. I'm an ambassador with the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. I would simply like to share some positive news that I was able to successfully stage the first blood drive in this community in a very long time in conjunction with Jacob Shaw at Tropicana. And we were able to generate enough impact to satisfy 36 lives. So it was pretty amazing. I think we can do better as a community. So I'm going to file paperwork in hopes to do a citywide co-sponsored event, and I would like to see everybody's different organizations' representation. I thank you for your time and your participation. And Mayor, I thank you for attending the blood drive as well. Thank you.
Nicole Sanford, followed by Jerry Luckenbach. Sorry, is that okay? And then Sakuru Force after that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Nicole Sanford. I come from El Cajon, California, just east of San Diego. And you might be wondering why I'm here in West Hollywood today. I am here to advocate on behalf of a good friend of mine who you may know very well, fellow trans rights advocate, Annie Jump Vicente. She was arrested a few days ago on the 27th of February when she was harassed by two Amazon drivers and attacked after a verbal altercation regarding their speeding through her alleyway behind her apartment on Poinsettia Boulevard. The following attack was startling. It's why I'm shaking today. It's why I got off work at 1 a.m., came up here, left at 5:30 a.m. to be here at the courthouse today. She was held on $100,000 bond, and no chance was given for her to be heard. Her public defenders were not allowed to see her in the courtroom today. And I find this very relevant to the city council because this is one of your residents, an avowed advocate for trans rights in this community who time and time again has been provedly targeted for her involvement in the fight for trans rights. I'll now do something that I know she's done before, which is share a video of what happened to her expressly. Not everybody will be able to see this, but I hope you will. Please strain your eyes.
Get out of whose way? Get the fuck out my way. Get out of your way? Watch out, man. Watch out, man.
Nicole, the only thing that we're allowed to have in the public comment is written testimony right now. If there's something that you want the council to know, please send it to us via email and for the public record that way. Thank you.
I'd just like to close by letting you know that this is a very important matter to not only this community, but communities all over California. We are watching the city's response to this, and we hope to see justice very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Luckenbach, followed by Sakuru Force, followed by Mike Nuttall.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I am in a similar spot as Nicole was at. I am also from San Diego. I came here starting at 5 a.m. and I have witnessed a crime on one of my fellow community members that could have happened to really any of us, trans rights organizers, trans people. And I'm here to demand justice. I'm here to demand that the city council is able to take mercy on this woman who, in our video that will be posted on bluesky.org/SD for trans rights at bluesky.sculpture. It will be released to the public in full contents. We would like to see a pardon for Miss Annie Jump. Thank you.
Thank you. Sakuru Force, followed by Mike Nuttall, followed by Wendy Goldman.
Hi, good evening. You've seen me before come up and speak, but I never imagined actually coming back here to speak anymore but today I'm here for AnyJump. For even temporarily, I guess you now successfully got rid of the most fierce advocate for trans rights in the city. And some of you may be congratulating yourself. I attended AnyJump's hearing today, and I was shocked because it was full of false accounts. But the judge said because it was bystanders, eyewitness accounts, they must be unbiased. But people of this city, maybe not everyone, but many people in the city I know are biased against AnyJump. Because of media like WehoTimes, AnyJump is already judged by the public without fact checking. What most people don't know about AnyJump is she has contributed so much to the city. And she studied city planning in college. So she has contributed so many ideas, from something about traffic control to bike lanes. And she routinely helps people cross the street near her apartment. So, I think it's unfair that she is characterized as a troublemaker in this city. And, people just tell her to just walk away when she faces these slurs and threats against her. But as the silent, scared, transgender child in Japan, I know for a fact what happens when you stay silent. You get killed. You get your rights taken away. So please for once, listen to the voice of us and listen to the voice of AnyJump Vicente. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mike Nuttall, followed by Wendy Goldman. And as Mike's coming to the mic, I just want to say you can please email that to publiccomment@weho.com. Sorry, weho.org. Publiccomment@weho.org. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Hi, City Council. Nice to see you again. First, I just wanted to say to City Manager David Wilson, every time I go to City Hall, your staff is great and very helpful and friendly. So I just want to give a shout out to them. And the second part is, I guess I'm just looking at some point for help or recommendation. My condo association, which sometimes is the root of all evil, condo boards, had an election. And in our election, I believe in full transparency as any democratic process. And in our election, we weren't allowed to see the ballots and we weren't allowed to see who voted in an election. And suddenly my condo board, where we live on West Knoll, 837, it's 53 units, so it's a good sized building. We had an election and we couldn't see who voted or the ballots themselves of transparency of an election. And I just kind of looking out for a recommendation or someone that can help to alleviate any kind of conspiracy theories or issues with who voted, how they voted, and issues that come up with that. So I'm just, if anyone's out there, the next Gloria Allred or anyone, I'd appreciate it. Thanks, bye.
Thank you. Wendy Goldman, and I just want to acknowledge, I know we're a little bit beyond the 20-minute threshold, but we did have a number of public commenters speaking on an item that they weren't going to be able to stay for, so we'll finish the public comment period. Go ahead, Wendy.
Good evening. Wendy Goldman, West Hollywood resident. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Vice Mayor. I would like to thank the City Council members, especially John Erickson and Vice Mayor John Heilman, for their help in honoring Congregation Kol Ami last Friday night. We had a most beautiful proclamation presented to our rabbi, and it was very, very much appreciated by our members and especially our founding members who were present. We're celebrating our 32nd year as a long-term partner with the city, and on behalf of Rabbi Resnick, I offer our sincere thanks for the beautiful proclamation and for your attendance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dorian Jackson, followed by Kelly Pilarski, followed by Richard Giesbrit. Did I say that right or close? Okay, thanks.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Dorian Jackson. I am a member of the Public Facility Recreation and Infrastructure Commission, but I'm speaking tonight as a resident of almost 20 years and also as a local government employee. I'm speaking on F2 and particularly about the at-large appointments. I have to pause for concern about going into this direction. My first group of concern is that as working in this industry, working in local government, it is really hard to seat people with at-large applications. You will have people who are not thoroughly committed, the pool will be very small, and the commitment level is not there when you're doing something on bequest of someone else. My second pause for concern on this is when you do things where you have to vote, majority is always going to rule. So if the council is going one way and there's people who are on the other side of the council are feeling another way, the majority is always going to win. I, as a minority, a Black woman, an immigrant, I'm always on the bottom, on the losing side of anything that's in the majority. And I think that all voices should be heard. So everyone should have an equal say and an equal part of seating people on commissions and boards. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Pilarski, followed by Richard Giesbrit, and I believe that's our last speaker.
Hi, council members. Hi, Mayor Byers. I'm here today just speaking as a resident. I wanted to just acknowledge how many more cyclists I've seen in the city using the Willoughby Greenway and on Santa Monica Boulevard. Everyone has their helmets on and bike lights, and it's just been really enjoyable to watch, and I'm always waving. The other thing I wanted to mention is something someone else had said earlier today. If we can all just recognize, everyone in this group, that at some point we are all pedestrians. I know it is sometimes hard to identify as that, but you will be walking and you will need to cross the street. So for all of us to remember that we are also pedestrians as well as drivers. So please stop when you see the pedestrian lights blinking, and please stop when you see people in the crosswalk who are trying to cross the street. Just a quick reminder. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Richard Giesbrit, and then I think Steve Martin snuck in at the end, so we'll have one more, but that's it. We've got to move on. Well.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to speak about the permitting process at the building department. Recently, I obtained a re-roofing permit for my residence. The contractor required well over 5 hours on his part to obtain that permit, which is everything that has to be done online now. I expended over 7 hours, and this included many phone calls back and forth to the department, researches online, and several trips to the department as well. The staff was polite, but they're really burdened by this cumbersome system. And contractors report that roofing permits in Beverly Hills require 15 to 20 minutes at the most, regardless how large they are. And in the city of LA, it's a little more, maybe 30 minutes at the most. But that's what all it requires. Why should it require so much time at the city of West Hollywood? I encourage you to revisit the design of this system to make it easier for contractors to use it and work in the city. There's no reason why this alone should be such a problem when other cities have managed to, managed to make the systems easy to use. They should be user-friendly, without question, saving everybody time and money. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker for this first public comment period is Steve Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Martin, West Hollywood. On B10, it's exciting to see the transitional housing project on Holloway moving forward. But I would also ask that maybe if you would amend your adjournment motion to include the child from Lubbock, Texas, who died of measles. I think it's just so important to really stress that we really have to treasure children and let science rule. It's Women's History Month, and I know it's not possible for this year, but maybe next year we can honor a pioneer in the lesbian community, former fire chief Kristen Crawley, who's being scapegoated by the LA City Council, not as we speak, but tomorrow night. I have to say, as a gay man, as a person who've always considered myself a feminist, it's really difficult to see somebody who worked her way up the ranks and brings an incredible wealth of knowledge to the department management, who only offense, her only offense was speaking truth to power. And I know that it was like, well, maybe that was bad timing, but she was talking about issues that have plagued the department for a long time, and the best time to do it is when people are watching. And that might have made a lot of people uncomfortable, including people in the LA City Council who have been, for many years, undercutting the fire department. And it's been with training, with personnel, particularly the mechanics. The LA Times has done a rather self-serving, quote-unquote, investigation, which really ignored a lot of facts, particularly a lot of facts brought forward by the union. But there's been a shortage of mechanics for a long time. You can't buy a fire truck without a 4-year waiting period. And when the mayor said that there was an increase in the budget, there was, but it was almost all raises, which is wonderful, but that doesn't make us safer. But anyway, thank you, and hopefully next year she can be honored.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes public comment. Thank you to all our public speakers for joining us tonight. We will move on to the city manager's report. City Manager Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I have just a couple of announcements tonight. The city has developed a Know Your Rights campaign in English, Spanish, and Russian to raise awareness about resources for people in immigrant communities. During this time of federal immigration policy changes, the LA County Office of Immigrant Affairs is encouraging people to go to its website to learn about the rights and resources. The city's Know Your Rights material include outdoor media ads, flyers, postcards, and more, all pointing to information from the Office of Immigrant Affairs at oia.lacounty.gov/KYR. There are also flyers in the lobby area of the council chambers. The city is hosting 2 community workshops about zoning improvement programs for housing. This program intends to reduce zoning-related hurdles to housing development in West Hollywood. We invite community members to share their experiences and ideas for the future of housing in our city at any of these in-person workshops. At the in-person workshop this Wednesday, March 5th at 6 p.m. at Plummer Park Community Center. There will also be an online workshop on March 11th at 12 p.m. To register and for more information, contact the Long Range Planning Division or visit the city's website at engage.weho.org/zip. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. I understand one of my colleagues has a question for you.
Yes. Multiple questions? Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. David, regarding one public commenter, and it was Todd Hallman regarding East Side development, this has been an ongoing issue on the East Side. I'm glad to see some of the stall development moving forward, but perhaps you could meet. I don't believe there's an East Side Neighborhood Watch Group anymore, but perhaps you could call Todd and figure out how code and the sheriffs could go out there in the morning to make sure that stuff doesn't happen.
Sure, and we have been out there on walks before in the area, but we will take another walk around to look at some of the development activity.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, David. And I think you heard Richard Giesbrecht's comments about the online permitting process, and I know it's still relatively new for us, but that length of time for a roofing permit does seem excessive. Can you work with Nick in community development and look at that issue and come back to us with a report on whether some changes need to be made?
Yeah, yes, definitely. And we'll contact Mr. Giesbert and his contractor to see exactly what was happening in their situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the city manager's report. City clerk, can you share the fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar with items E1, F3, F4, F5, and F6 all moved?
You stole my thunder in my script. The fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar with the addition of the items that the mayor enumerated is $3,520,604 in expenditures, $0 in revenue, and $0 in waived fees. There is a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent calendar. And the motion passes 5-0.
Noting Councilmember Meister's original.
No vote on item B13.
Terrific, thank you. I believe we will move on to the public hearing. Item C1, the request to amend the Pacific Design Center specific plan to allow more flexibility in the tenant mix. The public hearing is now open. Are there any disclosures from council members? We'll start over here.
Yep. I did speak with the applicant's representative.
Terrific.
All in the staff report.
Okay.
I also spoke with the applicant's representative.
I spoke with the applicant's representative.
I also spoke with the applicant's representative. Maybe we should take a moment for Councilmember Hing to rejoin us. It's great. We'll give everyone time to get settled. Councilmember Hing, as you get resettled, are there any disclosures you have to share?
My apologies, Mayor. Yes, I also spoke with the applicant.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, how is this meeting noticed?
As required by law, Mayor.
Thank you. And will the staff please introduce yourselves and share the staff presentation? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Nick Marisich, Community Development Director, joined this evening by our Assistant Director, Jennifer Alkire, our Acting Planning Manager, Garen Yoles, Associate Planner, Adrian Gallo, who will be giving tonight's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Byers and members of the City Council. I'm Adrian Gallo with the city's current planning division. The PDC campus spans 14.2 acres and is bordered by Melrose Avenue, San Vicente Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, and Huntley Drive. Surrounding uses include retail, commercial, and residential areas south of Melrose, facilities for the public west of San Vicente, residences along Huntley Drive to the east, and the Sheriff's Station and LA Metro Bus Depot to the north. The Pacific Design Center is proposing amendments to its specific plan to clarify allowed land uses, revise the project conformity review process, increase tenant use flexibility, improve space utilization, and update parking rates to align with current city requirements without any physical changes to the existing blue, green, and red buildings. In 1986, the City Council approved the PDC specific plan. The original PDC specific plan provided for the existing blue and future green and red buildings. The use of both the green and red buildings were approved as showroom with ancillary uses. The green building and the building housing the MoCA Gallery were completed in 1998. Due to decreasing demand for showroom and difficulties leasing the space within both the blue and green buildings, the Planning Commission approved a development permit in 1998 to allow for the conversion of showroom use to general office use. In 2003, the City Council approved a completely revised PDC specific plan that allowed the red building to be developed as an office building, revised the total development limits for the PDC specific plan area, including an increase in ancillary uses, and established the parking ratios for the allowed uses. The red building was constructed and has operated with office uses since 2012. In the 2003 PDC specific plan introduced a project conformity review process to increase flexibility in land use changes within the PDC. The 2003 PDC specific plan also includes a trip equivalency transfer process to ensure land use changes approved under the PCER process stay within the PDC's PM peak hour trip cap. To summarize this process, basically more intense uses may only be approved if an equivalent amount of allocated space is left vacant. The equivalency transfer was implemented to restrict the PDC's trip generation to the PM peak hour cap and reduce impacts on nearby traffic circulation. Demand for design showroom has significantly decreased, while demand for other spaces, such as medical research facilities, has increased. Due to medical research facilities having higher trip equivalency factors than design showroom, the PDC must leave nearly 171,000 square feet of otherwise leasable showroom space vacant. In looking at these changes, the city prepared an addendum to the EIR. Addendums are used when there are changes or additions to a project that do not result in significant effects. The addendum determined that the amendment to the PDC SP would not be expected to result in new or substantially more adverse significant impacts than those disclosed in the certified EIR of 2003 for the PDC SP. The Pacific Design Center has been a vital part of West Hollywood's identity and a hub for the design industry for 40 years. Its iconic structures are integral to the community, and the addendum confirms that the proposed tenant mix changes will not cause new or significantly increased environmental impacts beyond those that identified in the 2003 PDC specific plan EIR. The proposed changes to the PDC specific plan aim to enhance our operational flexibility, provide economic benefits, increase opportunities for city-sponsored events from 10 events per year to 15 events per year, and improve parking availability for the public at the PDC by offering nighttime parking at the city garage rates. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend approving the specific plan amendments and adopting the addendum to the certified EIR. Staff is happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant or their representative wish to address the council? You'll have a maximum of 5 minutes.
Oh, it's a maximum of 5. I was actually going to request 15, including rebuttal time this evening, if the council would accept that, but I can try and be quick.
There are only 4 people listed to speak, so
Okay,
I don't know
that's fine.
that you're going to need a lot of
I
rebuttal.
don't need to go into a ton of detail. We can skip. I believe there was. Is there a clicker up here tonight? Or
The city clerk has it ready for you over there.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there is an applicant's presentation, I believe, that's been loaded onto the staff computer.
Olivia, can you switch to their?
This won't count against your time, I promise.
Adrian, unless you can grab it. Maybe the one called Weavers?
Nope. PDC at the bottom of that, maybe?
Yes, it's the PDC City Council presentation right
There you
there. Okay. Thank you, Mayor Byers, council members, DJ Moore of Latham and Watkins, on behalf of the applicant, Cohen Brothers Realty, owner of the world-renowned Pacific Design Center. I'm here tonight to present our client's proposal to help modify the PDC specific plan so it does remain a vibrant and active commercial center for years to come. I want to make clear that there is no proposal to add a single square foot, and I want to confirm that none of the changes authorize new medical office uses that would include patient visits. I'm sorry, the clicker is not working. If you could pause my time.
Yeah. Just 1 second.
There we go.
Oh.
Just point to me.
Was that you? Okay, I can do that. All right.
Great.
We'll just keep going. Next
We'll go
slide,
forward.
please. So this is obviously the blue building, affectionately referred to as the Blue Whale, primarily designed showroom spaces. And the next slide, please. Here's the green building, completed in 1988, containing primarily designed showroom uses, consistent with the 1986 specific plan. Next slide. By 1998, a growing demand for office use within the city began to outweigh the need for design showroom, and so that was the first time that design showroom space was replaced with an office use space. Next slide, please. Cohen Brothers Realty purchased the PDC in 1999 and began making substantial improvements to the complex's landscaping, pedestrian pathways, exterior features, public arts, and common interiors. Next slide. In 2003, the city approved the addition of the red building, which, as staff noted, was approved as an office building, again, due to declining showroom demand. Next slide. Next slide. Here's a breakdown of the PDC's square footage. In total, it's 1.6 million square feet. Next slide. And here's a breakdown of how the existing uses are allocated within the building. Right now, office uses are the primary use, followed by design showroom as the second use. Next slide. Staff described the PCR process to you, so I won't get back into that. Next slide. While the PDC will always be a design showroom destination, the demand for showroom space, as I mentioned, has continued to decline. At the same time, demand for other uses like medical laboratories that help serve the Cedars-Sinai complex down the street have continued to grow. Next slide. As staff mentioned, over 170,000 square feet are currently required to remain vacant under this specific plan. And as any of you who've been in and around the PDC in recent years will tell you, despite being at the limit of what the plan currently allows, the space certainly feels underutilized and that there could be more activity in and around the campus. Next slide, please. In order to keep the PDC a thriving hub, the applicant has requested several updates to the specific plan, including eliminating the vacancy requirement, tying the PCR process to the parking capacity of the facility, matching the municipal code's parking requirements, and specifically defining medical research laboratory uses that are currently operating in there as not allowing patient visits. Next slide. I made clear that these uses are not going to be patient-facing. They are going to be backroom laboratory uses. Next slide. Ancillary uses are important to understand as well. All other uses that are not a primary use, which is office, design showroom, medical research facility, the art gallery, fall in the ancillary use category. That's capped at 42,000 square feet. It's worth noting that 26,000 square feet of ancillary uses are already exist today. That includes the restaurant space, that includes the Silver Screen Theater, fitness center, and so there's only a limited about 15,000 square feet of ancillary uses for future use. I also want to note publicly that the PDC is actually in final negotiations with an exciting new tenant for the existing restaurant space, and we're hoping to make a public announcement about that very soon when those lease negotiations are complete. Next slide, please. The proposed amendment includes multiple benefits, as staff mentioned, including the number of city-sponsored events, from 10 to 15, up to 2,000 free parking spaces associated with those events. We've also proposed tonight to include gallery space as available for those city-sponsored events. We'd heard concerns because the existing specific plan had excluded the gallery space from the city-sponsored event space. Next slide. This is the proposed language. We've provided it to staff. It's now including the gallery. It makes clear that all spaces that are in the PDC, if they're leased to any tenant, obviously require the tenant's consent for a city event to occur in those spaces. It also clarifies the city's financial responsibility. The space is obviously being provided to the city for free, but it confirms that the city is financially responsible for the staffing and the cleaning of the space and maintaining appropriate insurance, which is what happens today already. This just clarifies that language, and that events in the gallery must be design, cultural, or arts related and end by 11 p.m.
And that's time.
Oh, geez. May I ask the council just for a little latitude for just a couple of additional minutes, or just a few other things I wanted to
Do we legally have that latitude?
touch
We're
on.
good there? Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's great.
Thank you. Next
Yes.
slide, please. We mentioned, staff mentioned briefly, 400 nighttime parking spaces are going to be available at rates based on the city's parking garage, as well as validations associated with the design district streetscape improvements for area businesses so that we can help alleviate some of the traffic pressure in the design district. And then I want to talk for a second about the Melrose street parking. So next slide, please. We've heard some concerns about the popularity of the Community Goods Cafe on Melrose and how it's created some traffic and parking congestion. We're of course very happy with the success of this business in West Hollywood, but to address the concern, we've proposed to allow short-term 15-minute parking along the circular driveway on Melrose to help allow patrons to be able to get out of their cars quickly, grab a coffee, not park on Melrose and block crosswalks. And as noted in the proposed language that we've also provided to staff, the parking would be prohibited in the crosswalks area. So this is just around the horseshoe there. Next slide, please. Environmental review, that was covered by staff. Next slide, please. Community outreach, we conducted an extensive outreach campaign, knocked on over 300 doors, are proud to have earned the support of the West Hollywood West Residents Association and the West Hollywood Tri-Neighborhood Watch. Next slide, please. The amendment is consistent with numerous state goals, city goals to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and will ensure that this is a thriving hub in the design district for years to come. We're here to answer any questions. I thank you very much for the allowance for additional time this evening, and we respectfully request your approval tonight, consistent with staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do my colleagues want to ask questions of staff and the applicant now, or should we go to public comment? I think. Okay. I think that's what we'll do. We'll move to public comment, and then we'll come back with questions to both staff and the applicant after the public comment period. So first, I have signed up Spencer Rudin, followed by Michael Fant. Thanks.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I am a multi-generational West Hollywood person, and a fourth generation Los Angeles business owner that has been a occupant in the Pacific Design Center for around 40 years. And in the changing times, it's required flexibility and changes of our business. As of recent, with occupancy down and with the building being more quiet, it's certainly affected business and affected the kind of traffic and vibrancy that we have both in the city of West Hollywood as well as in the Pacific Design Center itself. So I urge you to kind of push this through. We need this to be a staple of the community, and for myself and the other business people in the Pacific Design Center, in the showroom, design-specific industry, it would be wonderful to have this building speak to the beautiful architecture and to the wonderful city of West Hollywood. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Michael Fant, followed by Ryan Welch.
Good evening. I'm the Executive Vice President of Landmark Movie Theaters. We've been a tenant in the building for the last 6 years in the Green Building. During that time, we've watched as units sat empty for great periods of time. It's very distressing, and we can see where they need to make some changes. And I think that passing this will definitely go a long way toward doing that. We're excited to see changes coming. We hope that this revitalizes the building, brings in more traffic, and that it revives it to what it was before. We're happy to be in the West Hollywood community. Myself was born at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, not far from here, so I've been here a long time, and I think this would be really beneficial. It would bring activity back to the area, and I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. Ryan Welch, followed by Jonathan Feinstone.
Hi, neighbors. Just here to support this amendment. I really would like to see the Pacific Design Center doing well. I lived here in the neighborhood for over 20 years, and so I'm there all the time, and I love it. It's great, and I think more people should be able to enjoy it, and I think this is a good way to get that to happen. I'm in full support of it without the public benefits, but the public benefits make it even better. I think having more parking over there, especially with the success of the businesses on Melrose, is going to be wonderful. So please approve this. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Jonathan Feinstone, followed by Richard Giesbrecht.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Jonathan Feinstone, the president of the West Hollywood West Residents Association. I'm speaking on behalf of the association tonight. We met with the applicants' representatives and looked over all the plans, and we are in support of this change. We think that having a busy and vibrant office building and more people to visit the surrounding businesses, in addition to the other public benefits, including parking. I hope that wasn't for me, but including parking and some of the additional free events that the city will be able to put on will be a substantial benefit to the city. So we, as the association, support this. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Richard Giesbrecht, followed by Christian Greer. And I believe that's the last speaker we have signed up. If you intend to speak, please get your speaker slips in.
Richard Giesbrecht, resident of West Hollywood since '95. I would like to speak on something incidental to this proposal. I am in support of it. But the city of West Hollywood doesn't have a municipal art gallery to speak of. And here we are, the creative city. We have many artists within our bounds, the bounds of our city and adjacent. And yet we don't have any strong organization about helping them expose their art to the public. And 147,000 square feet, acres of space might help that cause out, if only temporarily, until the city can come around and build that municipal art gallery. It would be great if that art gallery were in an area which was readily accessible to the public. For example, right adjacent to that coffee stand, where people can see it and walk in and get exposed to art, whatever it might be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christian Greer, I believe that is our last speaker.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We are here as a collective of local residents and business owners to express our support for the Pacific Design Center Pacific Plan Amendment. The PDC has been a long landmark in West Hollywood, but like many places and spaces originally tailored for a singular industry, it faces challenges in keeping pace with evolving market demands. Our community recognizes the importance of revitalizing this iconic complex by amending the PDC specific plan to allow the PDC more flexibility to utilize its existing space. The current rules have contributed to a large sections of PDC remaining vacant. By updating the PDC specific plan, we can fill these spaces with diverse tenants who bring fresh energy. Demand for traditional showroom has declined. Adjusting the plan helps the PDC remain relevant and attract tenants who may specialize in new, innovative, or emerging fields. This amendment also comes with practical perks for broader communities, such as more opportunities for city events, convenience parking options at fees based on city rates, and validations for city-related activities, helping ensure that the PDC remains a welcoming, useful resource for everyone. This plan does more than just fill empty spaces. It safeguards the future for the Pacific Design Center by adapting to modern needs while respecting the essence of West Hollywood's community's identity. We believe these changes reflect responsible planning and demonstrate a thoughtful approach to addressing vacancy without compromising the character or livability of our neighborhood. We urge you to support this amendment and give the Pacific Design Center the flexibility it needs to remain a vital part of our city. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any other speakers signed up? Just the citizen position slips.
We just have the citizen position slip. It is from Daniel St. Hilaire in support of the recommended item. And we also have one from Steve Martin in support of the recommended item.
Thank you. Does the applicant or the representative wish to make any further comments? You can have up to 2 minutes for rebuttal. Nope, all set? Okay, terrific. Then I will go ahead and close the public testimony portion of this public hearing. The City Council may ask questions of staff and the applicant at this time as we move on to our questions and deliberations. Who would like to begin tonight? Okay, I'm going to look over to you to the left then, Councilmember Meister. We'll just go down the aisle this way.
Thank you, and we can say how we feel also, not just
we're
questions?
doing all the
Okay.
above now. The public testimony is
Okay.
closed, so yeah.
No, I'm very supportive of this. I am happy to see the PDC be reactivated. It's been kind of dead space for a long time, and I think this is a long time coming. I think the fact that the medical research facility does not include medical offices that would bring in people as patients is keeping in line with the whole idea of not having too much additional traffic come to that area. I did have a question for staff, and because I just want to clarify. I know that one of the benefits is the 400 nighttime public spaces at the city rates. What was it before? Didn't we have nighttime spaces before?
Before, do we have that?
Before this, and we had nighttime spaces that the city, it was in the plan, it was in the PDC plan before, that we had evening spaces.
We had the 183 from the parking lot that was there previously.
Yes, but that was daytime spaces.
Yeah.
But we also had access in the evenings, and I know that for special events, the PDC had to charge whatever the city's parking rates for special events. So for example, if the library garage was charging $20 during Pride, then it had to be $20 at the PDC. So I just want to confirm that the difference here is that the 400 nighttime public spaces are at city rates all the time, not just at special events. I guess
Correct.
that's my point.
Daily.
And I see the applicant is shaking his head.
Yes.
So, yes, okay, good. That was really my only question, and I'm also glad that we are addressing the new coffee shop, which is very, very popular. And I did notice that there were cars blocking both sides of the crosswalk, and I'm hoping that by having signs up that sort of limit time, my only question there is who is going to be monitoring those signs?
That is placed on PDC staff.
Okay, thank you. You heard that, right? It's placed on the PDC. Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Erickson is ready to speak next.
Sure.
And then we'll bounce around.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you to the members of the public that came out and spoke, and especially thank you to the applicant for working with the surrounding communities on making sure this worked out well. I'm really glad that we worked out an agreement with the Arts Gallery space. I want to thank the applicant for that. That was a request of mine. I think was it Richard Giesbrecht's point about the Municipal Art Gallery? I mean, don't threaten me with a good time, Richard, but that's exactly the type of thing that I think the city should be looking into in our infrastructure. Obviously, when we have our Coast Playhouse, there's gallery space that's available there in Maze, but I know, amen, right? In 10 years when it's here. But I really want to thank the applicant for being nimble on that. I think that shows their commitment to the city. The MoCA space, are we allowed to call it the MoCA space anymore? No? Okay, so the unknown space of the tan building that's right across the street is really a jewel, and I remember going there to a lot of stuff. And of course, it's contingent on programming and everything, but I know this city's heavily invested in the arts, our arts commission and our arts programs, and so I think that's a big get for the city to have that opportunity, especially as we look at the 2028 Olympics, which are already here for the sake of planning purposes, but also making that space visible to the public, as it is really an amazing jewel. So I fully support this item, and I'm really looking forward to what my colleagues have to say.
Terrific. Councilmember Hing or Vice Mayor Heilman, were you ready?
Thank you,
Councilmember Hing,
Mayor.
okay, great.
I just want to thank staff for the staff report. I am also in support of this item. The PDC is an iconic building within West Hollywood. It's our one building that's pretty much known all over the world with the three colors. And, the previous specific plan reflected the time of its day. It's time to reactivate this site, and I'm really glad that the owner is willing to do so, to revitalize the PDC, to bring foot traffic back to the area. And I'm also looking at the public benefits. of the project as well. You know, discounted nighttime parking spots, up to 400 spots. Local business parking with validation. City event parking, and also increasing the city-specific events annually each year at the PTC. So I certainly am in favor of this, and I really do, I look forward to it revitalizing West Hollywood. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hellman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. I certainly support this item, and I support greater flexibility. We do have a lot of businesses in the PDC that are working and are active, but I think leaving any of this space vacant seems foolish. So I think this approach is a wise one. Can you clarify the provisions regarding the art gallery?
In terms of the city events within the space?
Yes.
So, the change that just came forward?
The changes.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Erickson referenced changes that he was advocating, and I think it's helpful for the public to understand what the current condition is.
So the original PDCSP didn't include the MoCA gallery as part of the event space for city. The gallery. The gallery is part of the event space for any city event that took place on the PDC campus. The latest revision that has been presented by the applicant, they are now allowing the gallery to be used as part of any city event within the 15 that are allotted to the council, to the city.
Okay. And I know they're also going to be using it, and they indicated to me in my meeting that it is being utilized for various showings during the course of the year. I think it would be helpful for us to ask for a report of how often it is being used, both by the city and the PDC, because it's a space that I think everyone in the community wants to make sure it is being utilized, as Mr. Giesbrecht expressed earlier. I got a question from an existing tenant in the building questioning how this would impact them. And my understanding is it would have no impact on existing tenants, but correct me if I'm wrong.
It would not.
Okay. And in fact, it would actually, perhaps if they're an existing medical use, it might give them greater flexibility to expand that use if they needed to expand.
Correct.
Okay. And then the final question I had is more of a technical CEQA amendment type of question, and that is, as you looked at the uses, you were talking about this equivalency transfer and how you evaluated it based on the parking demand. But I didn't really see the evaluation based on trip generation. Are we saying that all of the uses that are proposed have equivalent trip generation in terms of traffic? Because in the report itself, I didn't really see that analysis.
I will let our consultant speak on that.
And I'm not sure if you understood my question, but.
Just briefly, I'll introduce Michelle Finney-Frock with Dudek, our environmental consultant.
So yes, we did look at the trip generation of a kind of outer envelope of what could be anticipated. You know, the exact mix is unknown, but based upon what's proposed, we selected kind of a reasonable worst case scenario, looked at the trip generation of that fed into the air quality analysis, roadway noise analysis, driveway analysis, those types of things. And we found no new impacts relative to what was disclosed in the 2003 EIR.
So in terms of traffic, there would be no net increase?
There would
or
be a
no
net increase,
significant?
but it was not found to be significant.
Significant, okay. Thank you, that helps clarify. Thank you very much. But if we could get maybe an annual report on the usage of the art gallery, I think that would be useful. Otherwise, I'm completely supportive of the proposal.
Thank you. Thank you to all my colleagues for your comments and questions. I will just add, I see that there's a motion and a second on the table already, but I just want to add that I know the vacancy rates at the PDC specifically consumed a very large portion of the overall city vacancy rate numbers. So I think it's thrilling that we're finding an opportunity to be really thoughtful in how we approach this use of space, and I'm grateful to the applicant for coming to us with this. The one concern I did have, and I appreciate Councilmember Meister naming it, was the visibility of those crosswalks. So it is important. I know those waits at that coffee stand can sometimes go a little bit longer than 15 minutes. I stood there myself, but I did walk up onto an accident that had just happened as a result of the lack of visibility in the crosswalks, and it's really important that they are monitored. Otherwise, I'm really excited about the city's new opportunities. I know people are constantly looking for event spaces, and the PDC offers something truly spectacular. And I'm hopeful that as we look to the next year ahead, that we use those 15 new event opportunities. So I want to make sure that our staff is thinking about ways that we can meet that opportunity with the current event cycle and calendar we typically have, and make sure that our partners understand that that space is a new space. The one other thing I had just on the gallery was a question about how an event is defined. If we're using a gallery, it typically isn't just sort of a one-time, couple hours thing. A gallery is activated with art on the wall, something that people can experience maybe for a longer period of time. So I don't know if we've bound ourselves to a specific definition of what an event would be, especially as that gallery is concerned, but that would be my only specific consideration before we lock all this in. Can't be like a one-night thing.
In the specific plan, the current red line version, it lays out each city event and number by number of people, as for instance, scale, large scale, medium scale, small scale, and the events that can take place within each of those tiers.
And it doesn't say that there's a specific duration or time that that event has to be taken place over or within. If an event comes to us saying we want a week-long art gallery, would that be an appropriate space or not the ideal space because the event is limited to one specific night or afternoon?
I'd have to go back and look to see if it gives a time frame on the event or is it only a one-day event. Let me check.
It seems that the will of this body is that it's activated, but I don't want to assert that specifically and make something complicated here. But the intention is for it to be sort of a gallery. Oh, we have an applicant coming up. Terrific. Go ahead.
Yes, DJ Moore on behalf of the applicant. Mayor Byers, the way that it's actually defined in the specific plan right now, it's not defined by duration, but essentially the way that the process works now, it's supposed to be by mutual agreement of the PDC and the city manager. That's how it's sort of set up. So I think if the city were to come to us with an event that had a durational component to it, it would be subject to sort of mutual agreement depending on what else is scheduled in the space. There may be another space in the facility that would be more appropriate for duration because there's something that's scheduled in the art gallery, and so, it could be on the third floor. I mean, I think we would figure it out and just leave that to the discretion of the owner and the city manager to negotiate when such an event is presented.
And I think that's the type of flexibility we're looking for, so thank you for speaking to that. Were there any other questions? Councilmember Hang, I saw you jump in.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for staff. So has the owner ever presented a challenge or said no when the city has approached for an event?
I'm not aware that that's been the case,
Great. So the owner's been always willing to work with the city. Thank you.
as far as I know.
Thank you. Well, with that, if there's no other questions, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
If I may, Mayor, I was just going to call attention to the language that the applicant was referencing. It's on page 40 of the redlined document, which specifically outlines that process. So,
Thank you so much for the specifics there. Are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm going to read the language that came in this evening from the applicant regarding, that was presented during the presentation, so it's in the record. This is regarding the operational measures for the events. The language reads, in keeping with condition 24 of the previous PDCSP, adopted January 9th, 1986, the city shall be entitled to use PDC event facilities, including the gallery, for up to 15 total city-sponsored events per calendar year. The PDC and the city manager or their designee shall mutually agree upon the location of these city-sponsored events at least 30 days in advance of the event. If any space required for a city-sponsored event is leased to a third-party tenant, the tenant shall have the right to decline use of its leased space in its sole discretion. All requests for a city-sponsored event shall be made by the city manager or their designee to the PDC. City-sponsored events shall be cost neutral to the PDC. The city shall be financially responsible for providing sufficient security, staffing, and cleaning for each city-sponsored event, along with maintaining appropriate insurance. City-sponsored events shall be scheduled so as to not interfere with or displace other events at the PDC, provided that city-sponsored events shall not be unduly restricted or limited so that the city cannot use its total allotment of city-sponsored events during any calendar year. City-sponsored events in the gallery must be design, cultural, or arts-related, and shall end no later than 11 p.m. for the first revision. The second revision reads, for parking operations and fees, Melrose Avenue Cafe short-term parking. The circular driveway at the Melrose entrance to the PDC shall be designated as 15-minute short-term parking for patrons of the Melrose Avenue Cafe and shall be marked with signage and curb paint identifying the short-term parking is allowed except in front of crosswalks where all parking shall be prohibited. PDC shall endeavor to minimize traffic disruption on Melrose Avenue during the Melrose Avenue Cafe's business hours.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, can we go back to, I think it was maybe the second line or the second paragraph where you said something about the location of events? There's a part where the city can request and we would negotiate regarding the location of special events.
The PDC and the city manager or their designee shall mutually agree upon the location of these city-sponsored events
Yes.
at least 30 days in advance of the event.
Could we add location and duration based on the representation that that's what we would be doing? I think that reflects the mayor's concern that if we're going to have an art gallery event, it should be probably for more than, it shouldn't be a one-night stand. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Not that I'm opposed to those.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation. Is there anything else from our council? All right, we've got a motion and a second on the table. See some changes being made here.
Yeah, I have a question. Does the motion include Council or Vice Mayor Heilman's request for an annual report on the usage of the art gallery?
Yes, Madam City Clerk.
Okay. And also incorporating the language that Adrian read into the record, as well as Vice Mayor Heilman's changes to that to include duration along with location into that. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Erickson and a second from Councilmember Hang. And the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Oh, sure. We're going to move on to F, new business. Item F1, construction agreement with CS Legacy Construction to construct CIP 2501 Melrose Avenue and Norwich Drive, Weaver's Walk. I'm not going to read the rest of it. We know what we're doing. It's a long title. Sure thing. Thank you again. And when you're all ready, please introduce yourselves and please present the staff report. We have a number of public commenters tonight. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, Mayor,
evening.
Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Steve Campbell, Deputy City Manager, and with me tonight is Helen Collins, Acting Director of Public Works. Tonight's staff is asking the City Council to consider awarding a Public Works construction agreement to CS Legacy Construction for the construction of improvements in the public right-of-way at the corner of Norwich Drive and Melrose Avenue. The area was originally identified as a public gathering space for the community during the Design District Streetscape Project master planning process that began in 2011. This area was intended to be a garden-like space for passive uses and would include planted areas, soft surfaces, seating, shade trees, nighttime lighting, and public art with the intent of providing an improved pedestrian experience for business patrons. Go ahead. The City Council approved the Design District Master Plan in 2014 and authorized staff to begin the engineering necessary to fully implement the multiple phases and individual projects of the Streetscape Master Plan. Amongst the other major design work being undertaken and necessary to implement the first phase of the Design District project, a separate design for the gathering space was developed. This plan was ultimately abandoned for various engineering and design challenges, and the original area as envisioned in the master plan was not able to be completed, along with the other improvements necessary for phase one of the streetscape project. In 2022, the City Council approved a construction agreement with Sully Miller to construct phase one of the Design District Master Plan, also known as the Melrose Avenue Streetscape Improvement Project. This project contained a placeholder in the documents to allow for future construction of the gathering space while it underwent a revisioning and community input process. Go ahead. The re-envisioned project became known as Weaver's Walk, and as originally designed, included a public art piece, textured hardscape, night lighting, 2 seating areas, and approximately 25 trees. The City Council received an update on the Weaver's Walk project in April of 2024, and the City Council approved a design iteration that allowed for a number and location of trees to be reduced to 21 trees. The reduction in the number of trees was selected amid concerns raised by the neighboring businesses. Staff moved forward and publicly bid the project as approved by the City Council. However, the concerns to the immediately adjacent stakeholders to the project have continued. Staff worked closely with the city's designer for the project and the adjacent business community representatives to make adjustments to the plan that best resolves the concerns that were lingering, mostly about visibility throughout the one block corridor of Melrose. This final iteration includes a reduction in the amount, location, size, and species of trees, a small reduction to the size of the westernmost seating area, and other minor changes necessary to accommodate those just mentioned, such as irrigation, lighting, etc. The total number of trees now planned for the area is 12 and are a combination of native oaks, sycamores, and redbud trees, the flowering trees. The size of the bench was reduced from an original 8 feet to 5 feet, which is substantially similar to the other bench contained in the design. The public art will remain as intended, and all other aspects will remain unchanged. The city's designer concluded that this final design is substantially consistent with and meets the overall design intent of the project as identified in the 2014 Design District Streetscape Master Plan and is further developed through extensive community input. If Council authorizes the project to proceed, the selected vendor, CS Legacy, is expected to begin work in the next 30 to 45 days, and the project is expected to last approximately 4 to 5 months, putting completion in late summer to early fall of this year. That concludes the staff presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do my colleagues have any questions for staff, or do we want to hear from members of the public first? Okay, let's move to members of the public first. We have a number of speakers signed up. I will say a few names just so everyone can hear. We'll start with Leslie Carlisle. Carlis?
Carlis.
Sorry, Carlis. And Richard Giesbrecht, which I learned how to say tonight too. I'll get him.
Good evening, Council. Leslie Carlis, resident of West Hollywood. This, this proposed concession to Ben Soleimani is a slap in the face to residents who've attended 40 pop-ups, workshops, and council meetings over the past 11 years. And yet, here we are again. Council's remit is to serve the interests of all of its constituents, not a single business owner who repeatedly threatens litigation when he doesn't get his way. Option A, approved last year, was in fact a concession to him and still offered an urban garden and improved pedestrian experience for business patrons, visitors, and residents alike. It was a fair compromise. This new plan is frankly ridiculous, with only 2 trees in the largest part of the park in front of Soleimani's business. Option A calls for 9 trees in that location, a reduction from the 12 originally contemplated. 2 trees in such a large space does not create a shady respite or in any way enhance the city's green and public spaces as called for in the general plan. This is a public space. Option A serves the public interest. This plan serves Soleimani, and it sets a dangerous precedent. It allows a single individual control over the public process and turns it on its head with absolutely no input from the community in advance of this meeting. The city has invested more than 11 years in paid landscape architects, consultants, staff, and public outreach to bring this project to fruition. It's time to stand up to Soleimani's threats and face him in court if necessary. Vote no on these design changes and start work on option A without further delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Giesbrecht, followed by Jonathan Feinstone.
Hi, Richard Giesbrecht, City of West Hollywood. I'm here supporting option A that was approved last year. I don't support the subsequent changes, which lack creativity and relevance to the community. I've been involved with the Streetscapes project since 2012. I participated as a citizen, president of West Hollywood West Residents Association, and the president, as board member and president. During that time, I never heard a suggestion or complaint from Mr. Soleimani or his representatives. Where were they? They weren't there for all those years. Moreover, during that period, Mr. Soleimani invited me to meet with his architect about the construction of his new building on that corner. I met with the architect. We talked about the fact there was going to be a park in front. Mr. Soleimani was, I assume, apprised of that through his architect because we discussed the window layout and et cetera. I am a California registered architect, by the way. He could have decided not to build because of that park, but he did not. He built a very expensive structure and an attractive structure, in my opinion. The city hasn't reconvened the Streetscape Committee to discuss these radical changes. The taxpayer dollars were spent. West Hollywood West was not consulted about this, nor any other citizens. I'm asking what's going on here? It doesn't make any sense. The citizens need representation here too. Save option A. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Feinstone, followed by Laurent Chambly. Chambly? Chambly. I'm going to keep trying. Hello.
Good evening again, Mayor, council members. Jonathan Feinstone, West Hollywood West Residents Association. We represent approximately 2,100 residents and 1,000 homes in the area that's bordered by Beverly, Melrose, Doheny, and La Cienega. We strongly object to the proposed design changes to Weaver's Walk as they are an insult to both the neighborhood and the public engagement process. The community has been actively involved in planning the Weaver's Walk project at Norwich and Melrose since 2014, participating in numerous public comment sessions and meetings. In 2022, the neighborhood successfully opposed a brutalist design advocating for a green space to soften the concrete-heavy area. In response, the city implemented a comprehensive redesign in 2022, reflecting the community's feedback. During the April 15, 2024 City Council meeting, Soleimani and several businesses complained that the proposed trees would obstruct business visibility, while residents supported the design featuring 21 trees. The design was reduced from 24 to 21 in an attempt to appease Soleimani, and the City Council approved the 21 tree design, which was met with relief from the neighborhood. Despite the public space being owned by the city and not Soleimani, the proposed changes now align with his interest, resulting in a brutalist design. The new plan involves 12 box trees, with only 2 located at the key corner of Melrose and Norwich, which does not reflect the desires of the residents. The new design represents a significant reduction from the originally approved plan and disregards community preferences. Although the staff urges the City Council to approve this new design, claiming it can be built immediately, this is transparent extortion from a single business owner and a complete disenfranchising, demotion, and silencing of the residents' voice and the public process. The West Hollywood West Residents Association urges the council to vote no and proceed only with original option A, which was approved nearly a year ago.
Thank you. Lawrence Chambly?
Good evening. Thank you. It's Chambly. Thank you.
Chambly, thank you.
You've heard the long history of this construction project. It's gone on for more than a decade. We don't think that the community has been treated equitably by this developer. It started years ago with the destruction of a few little businesses that were there. There was a stationery shop, a dry cleaner, and another little business, and I can't recall exactly what it was. Maybe it was a gift shop. But anyway, no concern for those businesses. They're gone. They constructed a hole and let that sit for several years, where it provided an excellent breeding ground for mosquitoes and an eyesore to the community. Meanwhile, the property was surrounded by one of those plywood fences painted green, and it had a post no notices on the fence sign, but of course we all know how effective those are. And the whole area was an eyesore for all these years. Finally, a year ago, at a meeting I attended here and spoke, the council approved Plan A for the project. I was at the hearing. I mentioned these things that we objected to, and we felt we'd been treated shabbily by this developer. Now we're facing another roadblock, and the reason is threatened litigation. Well, litigation is bad. Litigation is expensive, but in many cases, litigation is extortionate, and state law deals specifically with this kind of a lawsuit. It's called a SLAP lawsuit. And I referred to the California code in my letter to the council, and I hope that you were able to read it.
Thank you very much.
To the end.
Kimberly Winnick, thank you very much. And I believe Kimberly's our last speaker signed up tonight, so if anybody else was hoping to speak, please get your slips in. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I'm a 40-year resident of Huntley Drive, and I've spoken to you about this project, Weaver's Walk, multiple times, most recently not quite a year ago. And not quite a year ago, Mr. Soleimani had a parade of people show up complaining about lack of notice. And Councilmember Meister was able to produce a series of information, some of which Ms. Carlos summarized tonight, showing that there had been public comment endlessly for years about what was finally approved last year. And it was supposed to be expedited. And then we got fake grass, and nothing happened. And there's an irony here because tonight we're here on less than a week's notice about a radical revision into something that is not at all what any of us want in this neighborhood. And it's not what this city council, 4 of you, approved 11 months ago. What is before you now has nothing to do with a green, healthy, inspirational space. This is nonsense. Before the Melrose project started, there were 7 trees on that block, including a large one in front of Mr. Soleimani's project, a large one in front of Janet Yanity, 2 in front of Murray's Ironworks, 1 in front of the what had been the Balenciaga store. I'm sorry, wrong end, the other end. And so now we're going to get 12 trees instead of the 7 mature trees that we gave up to the streetscape project. The irony is really difficult that we didn't get any notice and suddenly there's this change. And this sort of feels like what's going on in the country right now, where people with money are bullying people who don't have so much money. And you know what? People are turning around and bringing the issues to courts. You people need to stand up on our behalf.
Kimberly, thank you very much.
If Soleimani decides to sue the city, you turn around and you sue him back.
Kimberly.
Do the project we want, please.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to citizen position slips. Is that a final speaker?
Maybe.
If there are any other folks who want to sign up to speak on this item, please.
So rather than his citizen position slip, he's actually going to speak
Okay.
on this item. So
Come on
let me
in. Thank you.
just add you really quickly.
Hi, thank you.
Daniel, hold on one second. There you are.
Great.
And go.
Thank you. I won't take much time. I was here last April when we approved option A, and I'm also confused by as are the rest of the speakers that came up tonight. I think if there is litigation, it doesn't seem clear to me what grounds they would have on that. Visibility, is that something really that the city is responsible for? So just confusion around why we're not moving forward with option A, which was supposed to be fast-tracked in April after that council meeting, why that wasn't fast-tracked, and now here we're presented with something that is nearly half the amount of trees that we had all agreed to. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public commenters signed up or citizen position slips on this item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll now move to council discussion deliberation. Is there any one of my colleagues who would like to begin tonight? Sure, all right, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out to speak. I really appreciate your advocacy for the neighborhood and for the project that was originally approved. I completely understand the neighborhood's frustration with Mr. Soleimani, not just based on this issue, but on previous projects that didn't get built. And clearly, in this particular process, he was asleep at the wheel and didn't participate in the process. So I understand that frustration, and I think everyone on the council shares that frustration. The original plan that was presented to us, we discovered actually wasn't buildable. It wasn't possible to have the number of trees that were originally proposed. Part of the reason for a reduction from, I believe it was 25 or 24 to 21, had to do with the fact that there were underground electrical and other conduits there, which would have made it very difficult to plant the original number of trees. But that still left us with 21 and not the 12 that's proposed. I think my preference, and I suspect most of my colleagues would prefer to go forward with the plan that we approved previously, but that would result in us probably being in litigation for 2.5 years, if not longer, and nothing being done at the site because we suspect that there would be a temporary restraining order that would prevent us from moving forward with the project as is. And if that were the case, then that lot would sit, or that area would sit empty for that time. I think most residents want something completed. I think they want to see greenery and trees. This is not an ideal situation for us to be in, but I would prefer to get something in there rather than waiting 2.5 years or longer to put in the project that was approved. And I wish I could say, yes, let's go and fight, and let's fight, but that's costly. And it's not only the cost of litigation with Mr. Soleimani, we have contractors with the city, and we would end up likely in litigation with them as well. So it's not an ideal situation for us to be in. And I think that's kind of the reasoning that brought us to this place. So as unpleasant as it is, I support staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I saw Councilmember Meister next.
Thank you, Mayor. So while I understand the Vice Mayor's reasoning, for me, after years of public community meetings and a plan and a revised plan for this project, this particular item presents a major change to the project that hasn't gone back to the community, that hasn't gone back to public facilities, that hasn't gone back to the Arts Commission. And it's a major change when you take out 43% of the trees, and that was based on 21 when the original project was 25 or 24. So, and not only that, changing the species and giving no reason for why the species were changed. So I cannot support this item. I also feel that, especially in today's landscape, to allow a bully to bully us is not setting a very good precedent.
Thank you, Councilmember Meister. Councilmember Hang, did you want to jump in next?
Thank you, Mayor. So while I understand the community's frustration, I am of the firm belief that this is the best way to move forward, that I would be in support of staff's recommendation, because it would prevent further delays with this project. And if the will of the council is to approve it, then the community will have something tangible to experience and enjoy sooner than later, rather than something getting delayed for years and years to come, because you never know what can happen with pending litigation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Erickson.
Thanks. I just have a few clarifying questions for our city attorney. Sorry, I should have asked you these beforehand. I understand the community's frustration about, and I hear what my colleague, Councilmember Meister, is talking about. It's hard, and I want to make sure the community knows that when we're in closed session talking about litigation, we can't talk to you about this stuff. I would love to have called Richard or Leslie and been like, hey, boom, boom, boom. It's just not how it works, unfortunately, because we also have to protect the best fiscal interests of the city and prevent litigation. However, in that same vein, because there is threatened litigation on the table with this type of the development at Weaver's Walk, are we allowed to, or is it even a possibility to, as my colleague Councilmember Meister said, send it back for a community meeting, or to the public facilities and transportation and arts commissions? Is that a possibility on the table because there is a litigation that has been threatened against the city?
It's not because there's litigation threatened against the city. It's because this is the path to get the project built quickly and start construction within 45 days. And so to take that path would just be there would be more delay, and the contractor has given a bid, and the bid is good through the beginning of March. So any additional time added to the project would add additional cost and additional uncertainty to have to rebid it and go down a different path. So this is the path that's proposed to get the project started within 45 days.
Could you, I believe it was, I'm sorry to use your name out, Kimberly, but you mentioned, I think this in your digital comment or email, or maybe it was someone else. Can someone provide clarity for the public on who paid for the fake grass or whatever, the turf? I believe it was the city.
City, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that solved. I mean, I'm going to go into some of my comments now. This isn't what I want. I agree with, I think everything that's being said here, and
I think our phones are getting an emergency alert, and since we're in a large
Councilmember
space,
Meister,
we may
tell
just
us what
wanna
we have to do.
It's a silver alert.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
but
silver
just
alert.
Great, thank
given
you.
the sound, thank you.
We go to Councilmember Meister for she's my first phone call. I don't want to waste more of the public's money on a lawsuit. I don't know if we would win. I don't know if we would lose. There's been several lawsuits against the city where judges have issued things where they make 0 sense, and it's not worked in our favor. I think personally for this item, I want to see something done there, and we're all up here trying to do what's best. When I was campaigning this last year, I walked to someone whose house was directly behind it, and the woman chased me down the street saying, "Don't you dare build Weaver's Walk." and I said, "Well, did you go to any of the community meetings? Did you do anything?" She said, "No, I never knew about any community meetings, but I don't want it there." And I hear my fellow neighbors and residents, arguing differently. I don't know. I don't want us to waste money on litigation, and I think what Vice Mayor Heilman is saying is exactly what's going to happen. We could approve this with the amendment and the agreement. Specifically, if we don't and we go back, we will be sued. There will be a stop, most likely, and then it will be there for 2 years. No, it will. I'm sorry, but it would.
Excuse
No,
me, I'm
that's
so
not
sorry.
how this
We
works.
can't-
It's not
we
how
can't
this
have that
works.
happen.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
And
Please.
it's not
Please,
Kimberly.
we can't have you speak out like that. Thank you.
So I'm mostly in favor of staff's recommendation right now. I don't want to be in favor of staff's recommendation because I agree with what Councilmember Meister is saying, but in the fiscal impact of the city and the money and time that's been wasted on this process, back and forth, lawsuit, threat of a lawsuit, when does the bleeding stop? And I don't know. And everyone's walking out of here unhappy. So that typically means that, sadly, it's some sort of compromise. And none of us are agreeing with this. I mean, we don't like this. Kimberly, that is the last time.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all to my colleagues. I am also very frustrated by the scenario that we have, and I do believe that as our job is to think of the whole of the community, we have to think about and look at seriously how much time and resource has been invested into this project. And I really am grateful to the community members who, through your dedicated advocacy over the years, prevented something that could have looked more like a parking lot from occurring in front of those businesses, and has made it into something that will be a dedicated community space that can be activated, that will have art, that will have trees, that will have a bench, that will have a beautiful paseo to walk down. And all of that is because of your advocacy, and that we are in a difficult position of figuring out how to make that reality happen in this space, in this time, without expending many years and many more resources that are for the entirety of this community, is a difficult decision that we're in tonight. I am supportive of staff's recommendations. While it is very frustrating to be in this situation, I do think we have put our heads against the wall enough to find the best path forward, and I do think this is it. Vice Mayor Heilman, did you want to speak?
Yes, and I understand the community's sense of betrayal, because I think the community really invested a lot of time and energy into a proposal. even though I think the council as a whole is going to go forward with what staff is recommending tonight, I would ask that our staff meet with Mr. Feinstone and other representatives who are here tonight and identify some other improvement in the neighborhood that the council can get behind and can support, because I do feel like we have, not intentionally, but we have to let the community down here because of the situation we're in. And I do believe we're making the best decision on this, but I also feel that we owe something to the neighborhood to make an improvement or to do something in the neighborhood that recognizes that we are letting the neighborhood down on this particular item, and that we can do something else to hopefully make up for it. So I would ask Steve and Helen to meet with some of the representatives of the neighborhood to see if there are other things within the neighborhood or within the community that we could move forward with that would at least signal to the neighborhood that we do understand their frustration.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I really appreciate that recommendation. Councilmember Meister?
Yeah, I just want to say I guess, why should the community bother investing time, their time, in these meetings anymore, in meetings about new projects, if their input is not followed, or is not considered? And it's a rhetorical question. Nobody has to answer it, but this is how I would feel. Why am I bothering? Why bother? And I think that's how they feel. And after 11 years or whatever it's been, I know that in 2014, I went and put dots on, things and whatever, and this is the outcome. So I just want to express the frustration that I know that they're feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And looks like we're all very upset about this decision, so that's not great. But I do appreciate the members of the public for coming out and speaking tonight. We will continue this conversation as Vice Mayor Heilman suggested. I do appreciate that. There's a motion and a second on the table. Is there any other discussion or deliberation?
And the motion is to approve the recommendation with the direction that's been given.
Thank you. Councilmember Erickson, were you going to speak? Okay.
Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second to include the additional direction that was given this evening. And the motion passes 3-2.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next item, item F2. And again, thank you so much to the members of the public for coming out tonight. We're going to move on to item F2, updates to the city's advisory boards and discussion regarding potential future changes to the city's commissions and advisory boards.
Thank you, Mayor. Olivia, can you pull up that presentation? Thank you.
So you have a presentation and then, okay, great.
Yeah. So good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. The item before you, item F2, is updates to the city's advisory boards and discussion regarding potential changes to the city's commissions and advisory boards. The City Council Subcommittee, consisting of council members Erickson and Meister, met twice, once in December and once in February, and this item represents the subcommittee's recommendations, and I do have a brief presentation this evening. So the goal so if you recall 2 years ago, prior to the appointment reappointment process, we made changes to the commissions. We changed the Public Facilities Commission to the Public Facilities, Recreation and Infrastructure Commission. Transportation Commission was changed to Transportation and Mobility Commission. We required some additional residency requirements for some of our commissions, background checks, and we also adopted a parental leave policy which allowed for 3 additional absences. And the goal of tonight's item, and really any discussions we have around the city's commissions and boards, are to align our resources with the strategic impact that those boards and commissions have. And to optimize the city's efforts, we just want to ensure a clear connection between the activities of the advisory boards and commissions and the council's priorities. And we've observed a focus on event-based activities with our boards recently, and so we're interested in exploring how we can further strengthen the advisory board's contributions to the city council's policy and strategic direction. So recommendation number 1 is reducing the number of appointed officials that are on our advisory boards. So our commissions consist of 7 members. There are 5 direct appointments with 2 at-large appointments, while our advisory boards are 9 members. So there are 5 direct appointments and 4 at-large. With this, we would go to a 7-member advisory board and align them with our commissions. And there's a couple of current challenges that we face. We have a lack of applicants, so we really struggle at times to fill those at-large seats in particular. And we have experienced quorum issues on our advisory boards, which have led to the cancellation of meetings. And so the goal in reducing from 9 members to 7 is to allow for more focused discussions, quicker consensus, better decision-making, reaching quorum, and with fewer appointees, those 7 members will have a more active role in discussions and decision-making. So the second recommendation is changing the meeting frequency. So currently they meet every month. The recommendation before the council tonight is for them to move to every other month. Some of the current challenges that we have are a lack of meaningful agenda items for the advisory boards. And so there are times when staff is creating agenda items so that they have a meeting, it's not a good allocation of staff resources. Again, we have quorum issues and a lack of applicants. And so we want to place a greater emphasis on our strategic initiatives, and the council over the next month or 2, I believe, is going to have a priority setting discussion, and so we're going to shift the focus to those priorities. And part of the item tonight is to direct my office to bring back the work plans for the advisory boards so that the council can also give direction on what they would like to see the advisory boards working on. So again, it's shifting the focus from routine updates to strategic planning and long-term goals. There was a public comment this evening about our current administration and the effects that that has on, our underrepresented communities, especially in West Hollywood. And we want to hear from our advisory boards on what they think the council should be doing in response to some of those policy directions. And so this would allow the advisory board more valuable input on policy development and citywide initiatives. And we really want to have more productive meetings. By moving it to every other month, it allows staff more time to research and come back with meaningful items for the board members to discuss and provide input on. And I think the advisory boards want to have meaningful work before them. And I think in some instances, they don't feel like they're contributing as much as they could. And we really want to uplift them and ensure that that's what they're doing, and that's the goal of this. The attendance notification, so I just wanted to be clear about what our current attendance policy is. So it allows for 3 absences per year. Regular meetings only, we do not count absences for special meetings that are called, with an additional 3 additional absences for family leave. There was a public comment, I believe, under written correspondence that spoke about, if an individual is sick and they have to be out for more than 3 meetings, would we remove them? I have been with the city for 10.5 years. I was the assistant city clerk prior to being the city clerk. We have never removed someone for being sick. It is against our core values as a city. And as long as it's communicated with their council member, if they're a direct appointee, or with my office, if they're at large, we have waived that, understanding that they are sick. And I think the goal of this is to allow the person to be sick. You know, we don't want you trying to come to a meeting if you're not well. We want you to get better. So I just wanted to clarify that. So our current challenge is we're canceling meetings because of quorum issues, and we're canceling them while we have board members sitting, waiting for a meeting to start. There are times when we have been sitting in the room, calling, texting to have board members show up, and they have not shown up when they've told us that they were going to be there. And we've had consultants ready to present items, and we had to cancel the consultant coming, which is an expense to the city. So in an effort to address this, that's the notification with 2 absences now, is those individuals who have told us that they're coming to a meeting, told us they were coming to a meeting, and then all of a sudden, when we're in the room having the meeting, they can't make it, and now we can't have a meeting. So that's really what the goal of changing the notification to 2 absences is, to address those kinds of attendance issues. It is not to address those of our older adults community, our disabled community who may have something that they're in the hospital, or they're being treated for something. That is not the intent of this. It is really to address those appointed officials who are just not showing up. And that is not fair to their colleagues on the board. It is not fair to the public. And it causes us to have to reschedule, re-agendize, and that's just simply not a good look for our advisory boards. And so the goal is to ensure that Notice Brown Act meetings proceed and that city business can be conducted. The other recommendation is to pilot one at-large appointed advisory board. This was a discussion that the subcommittee had. They wanted to see what it would look like. Other cities do have at-large appointments. The council themselves are elected at-large. So it would be a pilot with one of the boards to see how it works. Would it create a larger demographic pool? Would we get more viewpoints if we were to have all at-large appointments? So it's just a pilot if the council desires to do that. There has been some feedback that direct appointments may be political in nature, and by moving to at-large, you mitigate that risk of those being political appointments and having them be representing all of West Hollywood instead of a certain segment of West Hollywood, even though we are 1.9 square miles. And I just wanted to give a little bit of, because there was also some written correspondence that this wouldn't allow the public to engage anymore with the advisory board. So I just wanted to show how much public participation we're getting in our advisory board meetings, which is unfortunate. So for example, the Disabilities Advisory Board, they had 7 meetings in 2024. 3 members of the public and 8 members of the public came when they had a televised meeting. Otherwise, it was appointed officials or city staff. The Older Adults Advisory Board had a little bit more, but again, you see it's appointed officials, elected officials, and then 4 members of the public, but a big bump when it's televised. And Russian speaking. And I do want to give an update on the Women's Advisory Board. If you give me 1 second, I had to reach out to staff for that information. So the WAB had 9 members of the public who came to speak at their 11 meetings. As the city clerk for the city, to see these kinds of numbers and the low public engagement that we have is not what I want to see. I would love to see a lot more public engagement with our advisory boards. And maybe by going to every other month, Because if you look at our calendar, every night of the week, except for Fridays, we have a commission, a board, or a city council meeting. And so maybe if we moved to every other month, it would allow the public to have a break every once in a while and be more engaged. And so with that, I will wrap up my presentation and turn it over to the subcommittee members if they would like to provide feedback. Can you switch back to Franny?
Would our subcommittee members like to chime in? Councilmember Meister? And first, thank you both for serving on this subcommittee. 2 meetings, many recommendations. We appreciate you.
I just would say that these are things we're throwing out there, and you know, this is for discussion. These are recommendations based on input from staff. These are not recommendations based on input from the community, because the community were not at our meetings. So I just want to make sure that everyone is very open-minded as we discuss each of these areas.
Thank you. Councilmember Erickson.
Yes, thank you. And it's such an honor to serve on these meetings with you, Councilmember Meister. I think we've been the 2 that have been on this for a while now. I will say that a lot of the frustration is something that I've personally experienced. I went back and looked at my calendar, 6 different advisory board meetings where I'd been there at 7 o'clock, and staff were frantically trying to call 1, 2, 3 board members to attend, and nothing. One even involved the beginnings of the social justice task force, where we paid a consultant quite a bit of money to attend, and people weren't there. We've had discussions over the issue of our programming around Juneteenth that seemed to lag for the first 6 months of a year because of quorum issues, when that's a really important event that we supported many years ago. And I also think that the issues of what I heard some of the members of the public say is that these advisory boards being event-based bodies, that's great. We love events. They're wonderful. But they should be recommending policy conversations to the council, and I think that's a really important conversation we have to make. And I think that these are just a variety of ways in which we're trying to make it a lot more accessible to the public, financially, more fiscally sound to the public in many ways. I know advisory boards, because I've served on them and I staff them, have since I was on staff, and even before then, they did a lot of events. And that's fine. I think policy implementation through events can happen, and we see it coming in those ways. But I also think that these boards and commissioners serve at the pleasure of the city council, so I don't want to create a tempest in a teapot there. We appoint our direct appointees, and you serve at our pleasure. So that's just how it goes. If I don't like something one of my commissioners do, I tell them, I'm a very hands-off council member, but the one thing I am a non-negotiable on is if you do not attend your meetings as an appointed official, you're gone. And it's unfortunate that some of our most critical advisory boards right now, and I don't want to call them out, I'll let it just speak for itself in the staff report, are not meeting.
Councilmember Erickson, I want to just, there's members of the public signed up to
Yeah.
speak, so deliberation discussion we can hold, but if there's
Yeah.
anything else from the subcommittee level that you want to share at this time. Otherwise, I'm going to turn to members of the public. Sorry to cut you off, there's a long list of folks here. We can get started with Magnus Mann, and then Rick Watts is after that, and Jonathan Wilson third on deck.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm speaking tonight as a community member in opposition to this item. When looking at reducing meeting frequency, I know that at least for the Disabilities Advisory Board, meetings consistently run out of time with the full 2 hours we have each month. So reducing the meetings to every other month would severely limit boards' ability to provide timely input and thoughtful advice. It would turn these boards into symbolic gestures without any real engagement. And you say that this is to ensure that meetings are meaningful, but it's always meaningful to actively include and consult marginalized communities. As rights are being rolled back nationwide, West Hollywood should be protecting and amplifying these voices, not limiting them and silencing them. If you want the meetings to be meaningful for you, use the boards more. Actually seek out their input and take that input into consideration. And looking at reducing absences, the city currently applies a double standard with AB 2449 that allows city council and commissioners to participate in meetings virtually, but does not allow that for advisory board members. That means that if advisory board members are sick, experiencing a health flare-up, or otherwise can't attend physically, they're precluded from participating. This alone accounts for many absences and likely many canceled meetings, which you can see that commission meetings are canceled less often, and they are allowed to participate virtually. The item tonight, making exceptions for just parental care and not illness, while it can be waived, does matter because the letter of the law then says that parents are welcome, but people with disabilities are not. So tightening attendance requirements without offering reasonable accommodations, which are extended to yourselves and commissioners, ensures only that a narrow margin of physical ability can serve. Finally, the lack of timely notice about this prevented all boards from being able to discuss it, suggesting that the city does not truly want board input on changes that directly impact them and the communities that they represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Watts, followed by Jonathan Wilson, and Jonathan Feinstone after that.
Thank you, Council. Rick Watts, City of West Hollywood. I'd like to second pretty much everything that Magnus just said. I would take issue, with all due respect, to the clerks saying that there were only 7 Disability Advisory Board meetings last year. Actually, I believe we were at 11. We had none that were canceled for lack of quorum, and quite frankly, in all of my years on the DAB, I can remember only, off the top of my head, I can only remember one that was. There have been 2 individuals over those many years that were pretty poor in their attendance, and they were ultimately asked to leave, is my understanding how they left ultimately. The whole purpose of the Disabilities Advisory Boards is to enlarge the conversation, to include as many voices in this community as possible. Now, discussion and debate can be messy. Democracy is messy. But that's the purpose of it. That's the kind of country that we live in. And limiting that limits voices. It limits input. This rainbow flag has 6 colors, or used to have 6 colors. It's been enlarged because we recognized that we added colors that were not included in that debate adequately. And merging some of the advisory boards, you're going to cut out some of these voices. Going to an every other month meeting, I think you're going to really be shooting yourselves in the foot as far as being able to get things done. As Magnus just indicated, it's already can be difficult at times for the Disabilities Advisory Board to stay within that 2 hours. It sometimes go 10, 15 minutes over. And that's going to make it all the more difficult to do so, and you're going to end up with more missed meetings because it's going to be harder to keep the schedule straight, particularly among members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Wilson, followed by Jonathan Feinstone. And I believe that's the end of our public comment, unless you want to add yourself.
Good evening, council members, mayor, vice mayor, and other council members. With that said, my name is Jonathan Wilson. I am a business owner here in the city of West Hollywood with Double Value Creation. I also am a resident here. I'm also a member of the Social Justice Advisory Board. I'm coming to you as a resident and speaking from that perspective. It's sad that I'm actually feeling a little marginalized while everybody's arguing for more meeting time because they're getting less meeting time according to this F2. We actually have less meeting time, and actually this gives us more meeting time, which actually makes me sad because for the past 2 years we felt marginalized. This is like further proof that we have been marginalized. And I'm really arguing that, I don't know if taking away meetings from other people to give us more meetings is the right answer, but I'm arguing for equality. And should there be monthly meetings, we would like to have monthly meetings as well. Or I would like for the Social Justice Advisory Board to have monthly meetings as well. If everybody goes to bi-monthly, then sure, bi-monthly is the way to go. But it is sad, 4 meetings a year, everybody's talking about how they can't do much with 12 meetings a year. obviously can't do much with 4 meetings a year. We've been given that as our only opportunity for the past 2 years. So this actually makes me more upset being here and seeing how marginalized we've actually been and how people feel like they can't get stuff done and we haven't been able to really be as effective as we need to. This just, I don't know, I just feel, I've never felt so disappointed and so sad. With that said, I argue for more meetings for Social Justice Advisory Board, but I don't know if it's at the expense of everybody else having less meetings.
Thank you. Jonathan Feinstone, I believe you're our last speaker.
Good evening once again. Hi, everyone. My comments are really just about the city's commissions, and I don't think that that's specifically being considered tonight. I think that this is talking about a pilot program, but just in advance of an issue that'll come up after we go through this pilot program, is the West Hollywood West Residents Association feels strongly that the current way that you all, the City Council, appoint an individual to each commission, in addition to having some at-large, should stay and remain, and going to all commissioners being at-large would be disenfranchising people's votes. So we support the existing way that commissions are created and how each of you have a direct appointee as well as a few at-large. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public commenters signed up? And then we have citizen position slips.
Yeah, so there's no additional public comment.
you.
There is one citizen position slip from Steve Martin in opposition of the item.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the members of the public who came out to speak tonight. I know we had some folks at the beginning public comment period too, so that is registered. Which of my colleagues would like to begin discussion on this item? Councilmember Meister? Okay, thank you.
Before you go, Councilmember Meister, would it be more beneficial for the public and for us, Madam Mayor, to go through maybe each recommendation and talk about those one by one instead of like maybe a free-for-all? Is that okay, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Just trying to make it simpler.
Yeah, we're on the
no,
subcommittee,
I agree,
you know what you're
because,
doing.
because then the comments will be lost. Like,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
be talking about
Olivia,
this and.
So
can
maybe
you
we'll
switch
wait for-
back to the presentation, please.
And the first item we have is reducing the number of appointed officials to the advisory boards. The specific subcommittee recommendation is to reduce from the total 9 to 7, and I believe that would continue to consist of 5 directs and 2 at large.
And
that's not the subcommittee's recommendation,
I'm sorry.
that's staff's recommendation, correct?
These are all
They're all a culmination of a discussion between staff and the subcommittee.
I
That
imagine
is
they made
correct.
it here
And-
because the
and not
subcommittee
the
allowed
public.
it and staff was part of the body of information.
Right.
Great.
So, on reducing the number of appointed officials for advisory boards, that one I still agree with. The truth is, we're having trouble finding people to fill 7 slots, and four of the 9 are at-large positions. And we just had the city clerk tell us we're having trouble filling at-large positions. So my feeling is we do the 5 appointed and the 2 at-large and make it align with our commissions. And hopefully those 7 people will be very committed people who will attend meetings, and we won't have lack of quorum, which we seem to have because of the 9. We don't seem to have that issue with commissions as far as I know.
Thank you. Are there thoughts, comments on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I also agree with what Councilmember Meister said on this item as well.
Terrific. And Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Unfortunately, there are a few commissions where we don't have any trouble finding members, but others we do. So we're going to have to make some tough choices for a few advisory boards. But I think this will result in decision-making being more effective, and the people who are appointed having a better sense of commitment, because they're not members of a bigger group, they're a smaller group, and they're all going to need to be there and participating. So I support this.
Councilmember Hing?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I am in support of reducing it from 9 to 7 with 2 at large. This would make the advisory board meetings more efficient, and would allow staff to do what they need to do to carry out the mission of the body. Thank you.
Terrific. I am also in agreement to make the shift from 9 to 7, so I think that's all 5 of us for item A. We'll move on to discuss item B, changing the meeting frequency of the advisory boards. Do you want me to start? Yeah, if you would like to. I was looking, sorry.
I'm on a roll. Okay.
There you go.
So my feeling here is, again, we didn't have the input of the public when we had these discussions. And I understand why the advisory boards would be particularly upset considering the current landscape, national landscape. I think that I would just either stick with the monthly meetings, including the Social Justice Advisory Board, or I mean, if we have to cut down because of resources, right, staff resources, or feeling that there's just not enough time to do research, et cetera, then maybe I would suggest two meetings, 2 months on, 1 month off, 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 and also staggering those months on, months off by advisory board to lessen the concentration of staff time on particular months. Does that make sense? So whether or not you agree, I hope that I'm clear about what I'm saying.
Councilmember Erickson?
Yes, I think I caught Councilmember Meister's math there, so I think that would be a total of 8 meetings instead of 12?
Yeah.
2 months on, yeah. So as long as the city clerk understands, I totally understand. I agree with everything she was saying, and I think 12 to 8 is a different understanding than 12 to 6. So I'm in support of the 8 meetings and frequency for this time period. Thank you.
I think having 2 months in a row is allows more consistency and the ability to continue a conversation, and then with the knowledge that the 3rd month is for staff to do research and do that.
Vice Mayor Hellman wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I think this schedule is sort of odd, 2 on, 1 off. I mean, I think that's going to create a great deal of confusion among our commissioners and among the members of the public. Do you have a meeting this month? Do you not have a meeting this month? I understand the desire to reduce the number of meetings, but I think there are other options. One would be to ask staff to look at canceling the December meeting and a meeting in the summer, because those are probably ones where there's less likelihood of a quorum being found, and people do travel, and we often cancel a council meeting in those months as well. And then also giving staff the authority to cancel meetings when there are no business items that need to be discussed. I know in the past, the Business License Commission, before they started doing cannabis, oftentimes their meetings were canceled. They may have met 3 or 4 times during the year because there was just no business for them. So maybe giving our staff the authority to cancel meetings when no business is necessary. So I would support that more than this on-off, as much as I understand the idea, but would that be yeah.
Seems like we're getting to the same place. John Erickson, I'm sorry, Councilmember Erickson, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just would, I think we're all saying something that we understand, but how can we vocalize that to the city clerk in maybe a more specific way? Could you maybe repeat back so the public and all of us can understand what?
So Vice Mayor Heilman is suggesting canceling December meetings and canceling one other month over the summer. Maybe we do June, because that's Pride Month, and everyone's busy attending events during Pride Month, so that might be the month that we cancel over the summer. And we do have the ability to cancel meetings for a lack of quorum or a lack of agenda items. I will share that there have been times when we've wanted to cancel due to a lack of agenda items, and we have gotten pushback from some of our advisory boards. So I will reiterate to them when we get through our reappointment process that this is at the discretion of staff, that if we do not have agenda items, we cancel meetings.
I think this is also a place where the conversation on work plans can be supported by this council too, and so we'll look forward to making sure that that happens. In the same way that we had this study session around planning commission and council's roles, I very much feel like what we're doing is engaging in a process around how our advisory boards can be in discussion with the policy making of this city in the best, most effective way possible. And so I think that work plan conversation will be really influential to that authority and sort of the shared recognition that that authority needs to be held and acknowledged and respected too at times in the best service of the city moving forward. Councilmember Erickson, or Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's difficult to raise this publicly, but I think we also have to acknowledge that some of our advisory boards they look forward to the compensation that they receive for those meetings, and maybe if we have a policy where we're canceling for lack of work, that we provide some kind of compensation for those meetings. I don't know how we can do it legally, but if there's a way that maybe we provide an annual compensation that isn't so dependent on the number of meetings. And again, I'm sure that's going to have to require some discussion. Because I don't think any of us are doing this because we want to take that $50 or $75 away from our advisory board members. I think the other thing that I heard earlier was a little bit of concern about the work plan, and some of our advisory boards seem to be adding event after event, and that may not necessarily be consistent with the council. And we all have been there. It's hard to say no to an event that is promoting something good in the community, but sometimes fewer events are better because they're of higher quality and they're attracting more members of the public. So maybe that's something that needs to be looked at in terms of the work plan. Do we need to pare down some of the events that are currently occurring, and maybe some of the other advisory boards need to increase some of the events that are being done? So I just wanted to add that. I'm done.
It's okay. Thank you, Councilmember Erickson.
Thank you.
Come to you,
No, thank you. I wanted to add on that one thing that we discussed in the subcommittee was, and I'm losing my point because you made a really good one, was the fact that, and it's gone. It'll come back. It's gone.
Councilmember Hing, we'll go to you, and then
It'll
we'll
come
come back.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I am in full agreement of either 6 to 8 meetings per month. The 2 on, 1 off is kind of confusing to me as well. I'm in also full agreement with the Vice Mayor when there are a lot of events. And a lot of boards have awards ceremonies, and that is a drain, and that is taking a lot of staff time. So if we're talking about consolidation, perhaps we can have a city consolidation day where we have one event where each board is at that event and they present their awards at the same time along with all of their colleagues to this on that day of an award.
Councilmember Erickson. And
Thank you. It's back. A potential suggestion is maybe potentially taking January off as well. I know we only have one meeting in January, and people often are traveling, but that's just a suggestion. I think if we're looking at a base minimum of 8 meetings, it would be great for staff maybe to come back with what that schedule could look like in a more formalized way for all of us. And then my question, Melissa, is does every advisory board, and I think I know the answer, but do they all have an updated work plan currently?
So most of them have just finished going through their work plan discussions. So if they haven't completed it, they will get a deadline from me that it needs to be completed so I can come back to council with that.
Wonderful. And are some of the events that typically the advisory boards go to or help staff, can those be staff driven instead of advisory board driven? So for example, like could staff, which I think they already do, drive the health fair that goes on?
Yeah, staff is mainly the one who sets up, gets all of, gets seaters and all of our other partners to come for the health fair. But the board members attend as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think there was a little bit of confusion back and forth. 8 meetings was suggested, but the math around December, January of summer is 9 meetings a year. So I think that's what we're talking about.
So maybe we can come back with a number. It sounds like 8 is around the desired number, and it may be different for each of the boards. So maybe we can come back with a proposal for 8 meetings a year and a compensation package that doesn't reduce anyone's what they receive, the stipends that are received for the annual stipends for the boards.
Okay.
I wasn't at 8. I was at 10.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
was
thinking
hearing
too.
kind of 9 or 10. So if we did June and December and
Right.
January, potentially. So maybe,
I think
because if we do 9, because they can always call a special meeting if there are items that they need to discuss. So we could say the base is 9 with the ability to add an additional one.
But I think you have to look at each advisory
advisory
board, because if an event is planned for February or March and we're canceling December and February for that advisory board,
That's right.
that doesn't work for that group. So, yeah.
Plus, you have months, you have, women's month, month, and you have this
It's
month
March
and that
right now.
month. So you have to think about, that.
And there's nothing, this is what I remember we did speak about, there's nothing stopping the subcommittees meeting from on the off months for the work to continue, correct? So that's kind of why when we were discussing these numbers, like if something was on in February and not in March, the planning committee that usually makes up an advisory board could still meet in that off month. It's a smaller meeting for the staff to handle, but not the actual full, and it's not a subcommittee is not
They're not
Brown acted, so there's more flexibility. So I think that's why we are coming down with some of these numbers. So maybe if my colleagues agree, and Madam Mayor lead us through this, like maybe we give recommendation from 8 to 10 and have them come back with a schedule?
Yeah, I think that sounds okay to everybody.
May I ask, in terms of comparing West Hollywood to the county or other local jurisdictions, what do other cities provide as a stipend to their appointees?
Well, they don't have as many advisory boards
So,
and committees as we do.
Most cities don't have the number of commissions. So we have 16. Most do not have that many, and typically they only tend to have commissions. Most do not pay a stipend. They typically only pay a stipend to their planning commissioners. They're considered volunteer positions. So we are unique in many ways, and not only the number of boards and commissions that we have, but our stipend is now $100 per meeting. So we did raise it recently, and we pay a good stipend.
So we are 1.9 square miles. We have 16 boards and commissions with 36,000 residents. Sounds like it's a lot more than most, if not all, municipalities surrounding here have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I think we're getting to the base of this changing the meeting frequency of advisory boards, the recommendations between 8 to 10 meetings. You'll come back, we'll incorporate some schedule considerations so we're not making that a difficult schedule for folks to do their work. Should we move on to the next item on the list? Sorry, I had it in front of me at one point. Oh, thank you.
Notifying about
The attendance notification.
I think that's pretty easy.
I support this.
Yeah, I think we're all in support of this item.
I mean, in a way, maybe that will help with preventing these quorum issues.
Yeah, and just as to reiterate, right, Madam City Clerk, nobody is penalized for a missed meeting for sickness, maternity leave. Could you I'm forgetting some, but could you make sure that that's aware?
Yeah, so our base attendance policy is 3 absences in a year. And then we did an additional 3 for parental leave. We enacted that 2 years ago. But again, we have never removed a member for being ill. And then I just want to touch upon the AB 2449 thing, which is actually, there's additional legislation. So it's actually been changed to further kind of limit the amount, but jurisdictions can enact their own, and it is the council can do it, and then only those quasi-judicial commissions if there's a public hearing scheduled. If there's not a public hearing, they cannot utilize the city's policy. So I wanted to clarify that as well.
We're going to add something?
I have a clarifying question.
Okay,
Is that
go ahead,
Madam Mayor?
yeah.
So that wouldn't then apply to advisory boards?
No.
So advisory boards never have public hearings?
No.
No, and so just because I know there was a public commenter might have been mistaken about the law, because I want to get this real clear because we've heard about it, right? So specifically, maybe Lauren,
So with I
yeah.
think where there's some confusion is we still have the regular teleconference rules under the Brown Act. So if you cannot attend a meeting, but you're going to be away on a trip, as long as we put it on the agenda where you're going to be teleconferencing in, and you sit in the little business room at the hotel and you put the agenda up on the board, you can attend. I'm going to try to say this as delicately as possible. If someone is in the hospital, I don't see where the nurses, doctors would want someone participating in a public meeting, whether they're using traditional Brown Act teleconferencing rules or AB 2449. And I think the goal of the city is for people to get well. And while we agree that the work that our boards and commissions do is important, your health is more important to us. And so,
and
that has not been the issue around quorum that we've experienced. So I think I just wanted to.
I was just going to add, I think there's a component to that too, that in the case of health, that the situation is not meant to extend because the public is meant to be able to be involved in the meeting. The noticing on the door is meant to invite the public to participate in that meeting. If someone's health is at stake, the public's ability to participate in that meeting seems like it is now challenged in a new way. And so I think that is sort of the value statement we're putting forward as a city, that while it may include that to do so challenges other things that we're also considering. So I appreciate that. And I also heard you say that I just also want to get clear, it's not even all commissions that it would apply to, it's just the quasi-judicial ones, which is 4, 3, 2?
So we have business license, rent stabilization, planning, and historic preservation.
I was just going to say, I believe what Melissa's talking about, though, is our local 2449 policy.
Right.
Yeah.
So the council took the state law, which I think has been amended this past year with some tweaks, but narrowed it down to what works best for West Hollywood, just to be clear.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks for all the clarification on how to teleconference in and not. Okay, so I think we're on the last of the recommendations as stated here, although it may not be the last of the discussion. Recommendation number 4, Pilot 1 at-large appointed advisory board. Vice Mayor is rushing to it.
I don't support this. Okay. I don't see any reason for it. The justification that it would, make it less political, it's just a different group of political who are going to make it. It's going to be a majority vote of the council rather than an individual council member making the appointment. That's still political. All of our appointments are political. There's no way to avoid that. I also think this idea that we would somehow get a more broader pool of candidates and that it would ease the appointment process, I don't think that's true. I think we'll actually have to interview all of the candidates rather than just the one that we're planning on appointing. And we always try to meet with and interview the at-large applicants. So I just don't think this is a wise move.
Any discussion on this side over here? Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, and actually, I'm glad that we brought this forward in a staff report because staff had to bring forward justifications for doing so. And as I read the justifications, expanded, as Vice Mayor said, expanded candidate pool and enhanced diversity. Actually, we just heard that there are a lack of applicants for at-large appointments, both direct appointments and at-large invite applications from whomever wants to apply. So the truth is that at-large are cherry-picked like any other appointment, and the pool wouldn't be any different, and diversity would actually be diminished because you will have 3 council members possibly picking candidates who will support their policies or priorities, rather than 5 council members picking people who will represent, you know, all of us have different, we have some of the same people who support us, and we have some who don't support us, and this way we know that across the board, people are being represented. The idea that citywide perspective and accountability, again, I think that's kind of naive because I've seen at-larges cater to council members who voted them on. They know that as long as they don't anger 3, they're safe. Council members are being, you know, the council minority would be excluded from decision-making. And I think that there's actually more accountability when you have a direct appointee, as actually Councilmember Erickson just brought up when he said, my appointees, if they do blah, 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 I let them know. And that's exactly right for 5 out of those 7 people, the ability to do that, to make sure that those appointees are accountable. And then the 2 at large, you know, I've never seen us, you know, do that with at large personally. So I agree with the vice mayor, and I don't support it.
Thank you. Councilmember Erickson or Councilmember Hing, anything to add on recommendation 4?
Yeah, I know that this is something that the city's looked at in the past. I believe then Councilmember Horvath brought it forward. I was looking back at some of those minutes. I thought it was an interesting idea. I know City of Santa Monica does this for all of their individuals. And does Culver City?
I don't know about Culver City, but Beverly Hills has
But Beverly
all
Hills does it.
at-large.
So it's a model that's being used on the West Side Cities COG. I mean, I think, you know, it's definitely something that we have to look at in certain ways, because how are we, I think, when it comes to at-large, and I think everyone said it up here, all of these appointments are political. So to not call a spade is, I think, important. But at the end of the day, you know, it's about also how are we looking at the ability to serve, I think, more people. I don't disagree with what staff has been saying up here. I think that you can make an objective argument for all of these things. But I also think that we have commissioners that, you know, cause some problems, and I think we need more rectifying ways. Commissioners and advisory board members that cause problems, abusiveness towards staff, which we've been dealing with, or other items. So I think we just as a full council have to be able to rectify that, and I hope that that's a call to action for all of us with our direct or at-large appointments to hold our appointed bodies at all levels accountable, because I don't like getting an email that staff is being bullied or there was a disagreement and it's on television, which, you know, we just don't need that. And I think that's something that in this at-large process we have to look at, because no one on staff should have to be treated like that. And I just want to make sure that we're really clear that these are the levels of codes of conduct. And correct me if I'm wrong, Madam City Clerk, aren't we doing, or weren't you going to be doing that thing for the annual Congress that we did not have last year, but we were going to do what was the code that you were calling it?
So we were talking about a civility statement, but I've been told we shouldn't use the word civility.
Civility, no.
It's another word that we have to use, and our equity and inclusion officer corrected us on that.
Wonderful.
So it is something that we've talked about, because we do have the code of conduct. But sometimes, you know, we need a value statement. Maybe that's a better name for it, what our values are as a city.
Yeah, and I think as long as we have commissioners and advisory board members understanding that a little bit more clearly in today's climate, it would be more helpful. So maybe at the next annual Congress, whenever that will be, we can maybe have that as like a big presentation. So I think that's important. So.
Any other discussion on recommendation number 4, Councilmember Hing?
Thank you, Mayor. The notion of an at-large is a very interesting notion to me, considering we are all elected at-large here in the city. It should be a reflection of how we appoint our appointees in the city. And this is just a pilot program. It's not something that's going to be set in stone. And if it doesn't work out, then the council can later reverse it, if that's the will of the body today. But considering that we are a progressive city, we always look forward to try new things, step where we have never stepped before. And I think this is a different way to approach appointing some advisory board members or as a test pilot. And if it doesn't work, then the council can reverse its course within whatever sunset date that we decide on. But I think it's worth exploring more if that's the will of my colleagues up here. Because we're making a whole slew of other changes, positive changes. And these are not negative changes, these are positive changes to effectuate efficiency with how the boards operate to assist the city council. That is their mandate. So I am in favor of the pilot project. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't, at this time, think the pilot is, for the at-large, is going to be helpful with everything else that we have going on. I think we have work plans to sort out. I think we have meeting cadence and schedules to really sort out. And I think being able to truly study the impact of what at-large configuration would do in one advisory board context while all of these other shifts are happening is just not going to give us proper data or experiential understanding of what's happening there. I don't dislike the idea generally, especially knowing that it's working really well for other cities. I always think it's useful to learn from what other cities are doing, but right now with everything else going on, I just don't think it's the right thing. And I don't think we have majority for this at this time with that, but it brings me great to item E or number 5. I think we're on 2 different pages here.
Can I add one more point
Please,
to that? And I think Councilmember Erickson's comment about a directly appointed board member, advisory board member, or commissioner creating issues or being abusive to staff. I think that's a legitimate issue. And I think the majority has to have the authority to deal with that if it arises. That doesn't mean that we should take away the individual council member's ability to appoint somebody, but I think just to protect the city, we do need some process. And I don't know what that is, but maybe that's what we need to look at to safeguard the city and safeguard the city employees. I've had a commissioner or advisory board member who was having problems. Let's just say he had issues and was acting out during meetings and was being abusive towards other advisory board members. And I was informed of that and then had the discussion to have him removed. But had I not done that, I think the majority of the council would need to have the authority to address that in some way. And I don't know how that would work, but I think that's something that we should have at least to protect the city in those instances.
Well, before you jumped in, that was going to be my transition to item E, potential future changes. I think the first potential future change that we're sort of all speaking to is a need for some procedure to remove challenging commissions, board members, it's sort of for all of the above. I know you're also in line to speak, Councilmember Erickson, but I do appreciate that. I just want to move us to this next piece of the agenda because I think this is where the rest of the discussion will happen, and there were a lot of different ideas that sort of started coming up. And now I'm going to get back to the proper speaker list, which isn't open in front of me. Councilmember Erickson, did you want to jump in?
Yes, I agree with what you're saying.
Oh, that's all. Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have this thing.
Yeah,
I don't know why it's up
it's
there.
okay. I'm just trying to clear it too. Okay, so if we're on this item for potential future changes, there was one other note that got brought up tonight, and it was just about the amount of awards programs and events specifically. There was a really amazing recommendation I read in, I think it was the Human Service Commission meeting minutes, last meeting or the meeting before that, about what maybe sort of a task force or an assembly of people from each advisory board or commission who are responsible for these awards programs could look like to get together and bring recommendations back. That was one suggestion. I've heard others about a city manager appointed task force. I'm open to the idea. I think we have so many amazing ways we honor the community, and I think they often go by the wayside because we're just not able to promote, tell the stories, really bring everyone together in the best way possible. And it would be to the benefit of the awardees and the recognition they deserve, and the relationship our city can better have with them if we do something different in that configuration. I think it's one of the places where our events are most meaningful and impactful. And so there could be a reality that these advisory boards and commissions decide to shift back from some of the other events they do as a result of figuring out and leaning further into the awards programming, which I think is a very unique and special way that each of these advisory boards and commissions gets to, represent the communities of interest they serve and make sure that they're well celebrated and supported. So I think in that space there could be something. I'm not sure I'm completely landing on it, but I think between some sort of body that can help sort of think about the awards programming, which couldn't obviously take things off course for this year. We'll have a whole, I think Rainbow Key 2024 still hasn't happened yet, so we've got some, awards programming that we're trying to keep on track now. But I think for the future, that could be one thing that we look at.
Mayor,
Sure.
we do an annual Congress of the Commissioners and the board members. I mean, if we do a consolidation of the awards, I think it would bring a larger crowd, and it would allow the advisory board members to celebrate the successes of each other on the same meeting. And I think that's a great opportunity to celebrate West Hollywood, to celebrate the advisory boards. So if that's something that a potential task force can look into, I think it's worth exploring. But I do feel that there should be a consolidation of awards. We give a lot of awards. And we should honor people within our community. But I think it's more efficient if it's consolidated. And as far as commissioners and board members that are, I've watched commission meetings. I've seen rude commissioners turn their nose up against staff. And I'm staff myself for the County of Los Angeles. And I don't appreciate when people act like that, when I'm working. So I don't, and I've seen commissioners and board members act very rude to staff during staff meetings, talk back, and request staff reports when they're not necessary. So I think when your office is able to further educate the commission on quorum, on etiquette, I think it would be fruitful, because it's not fair to staff, because staff are just there to do their job. And the commissioners or the advisory board members are there to serve the community, not themselves.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
So on the awards, I think it would be great to have some kind of consolidation of advisory board awards, because what we see is that the public isn't there. Maybe you have 5, 10, maybe 20 people. We should want an event that has, the whole community. So I think that's a great idea. And as far as commissioner and board members' behavior, I think having the Congress is important. And it's also important for our city attorney to make sure that everybody has a code of conduct and that they read it. So there you go.
Thank you. Are there any other items? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, Madam Mayor, are we all in agreement of giving direction to the city attorney and city clerk to come back with some sort of framework should something happen where a board member that is a direct needs to be removed, to come back with what that framework is? I just want to, I don't know where we all landed on that.
Well, I wouldn't limit it to direct. I would say
Or at large. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement.
Great, okay.
So I wasn't under the impression that with direct.
No, it'd be direct too, I think, from what we've heard tonight.
Oh, okay. So because the directs serve at the pleasure of the council member, right? The advisory board member and the commissioner.
And I think we've had experience where there's been cases where that individual, appointing member isn't aware of the issues, and because of Brown Act challenges, because of sort of the political nature of it being uncomfortable to go talk to your colleague about an issue in some cases. It's to have a proper process and procedure, I think would behoove this council as we move forward to make sure nothing's being done maliciously, but truly in the best interest of how the city needs to continue to function.
And I think staff needs to talk to us.
That's right.
I mean, that's, if we don't know that what's happening because we didn't watch that particular meeting, we don't know.
Right.
So I think it's important to have open communication channels between staff and council and with the city attorney and the city manager. And, that's why we're here.
So recommendation on some sort of procedure, future item to discuss around procedures for removal of commission and board members. I hope we don't get to that point, folks. That's what we're really trying to avoid. And some awards programming, to be clear. I'm not necessarily in favor of consolidation. I just think looking at it in some format with the input of the bodies is important. And I think making sure that they understand the important role that those awards play to the city so that they can determine how they best want to support that is where I'm coming from. I think the idea of consolidating has value and merits to it, and there's probably likelihood of that happening. I just don't want to give the direction to consolidate versus let's look at this.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
I think something the subcommittee discussed, but we had no opinion on, was, it's been 40 years of a lot of our boards and commissions, and we have, 57 of them. That's a joke, but we have a lot, right? But, what is the empowerment role of having dedicated seats on boards that decide our social service grants, right? We didn't come to a conclusion on this. We're not going to obviously land that plane tonight, but I do think, and as someone who has been staff and has seen these boards and commissions, as we all have, right? What does it mean to have a dedicated member of the Transgender Advisory Board on the actual Human Services Commission, a member of the DAB on the Human Services Commission, of OAB, those types of things that, that's a longer conversation, but that also gives more agency for that type of input when it comes to a significant dollar amount that our city does. We had no opinion on that, but we were having a conversation, but what does the next 40 years of that look like? So.
Terrific. Councilmember Hang, did you want to jump in?
Councilmember Erickson makes an excellent point in his example, expanding or adding dedicated seats to certain commissions will give certain respective groups, certain community members a voice at the table, right? Because if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So in Councilmember Erickson's example, having dedicated seats would give marginalized communities a seat at the table. For an example would be human services. They could be representative in discussions of RFP process for social services that impact that group's, their community's well-being. So, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I was going to say maybe the appropriate thing is to have our social services department work with our advisory boards and get their input as we go through the funding process, as we go through the needs assessment. I believe they do that already, and maybe just to expand that, I don't support expanding our human services advisory, I do want to make sure that all of our advisory boards are providing input into that very important social services funding process. And that's, I think, the way to get those voices.
Councilmember Meister.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, we're trying to limit the number of people on our advisory boards and commissions, not expand them. But something that we have talked about and we've tried to do, at least with Planning Commission and Historic Preservation, it's required, right, is to make sure that at least the at-larges are professionals in some way in the area that of the commission, to ensure that we have that that perspective as well. So it's not only community, but it's also having, just like we have someone who has lighting experience, planning, whatever, in on Planning Commission or in Historic Preservation, we have somebody who specializes in that or has that background. I think it's really important that at least the at-larges have that kind of background.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments for future outlook? I think we got through all 4 of the specific recommendations for tonight. It's been a very robust discussion. And we have, motions happening on the table, so that's great. I want to make sure you, City Clerk, are especially clear in what we've done tonight. So
Yes.
if you need time to ask us for clarity.
No, I understand
Super clear?
everything
Okay,
that
great.
the council's discussed, and I appreciate the robust discussion. It was
And,
very
and do
helpful.
we need a motion?
We actually don't need a motion on this item because we went item by item, and I think I'm clear. Well, you know what, we do have a resolution that's part of this, so I do want to, I do want to see a motion. So we have a motion and a second. There was a lot of direction given tonight, so this item includes the adoption of the resolution, the revised bylaws, which just will reduce the number of appointed officials. We aren't going to change the meeting frequency for now because we need to come back to council to get that direction. And we discussed the other changes. So with that, we can vote.
Do we want to do motions on the recommendations, just so it's very clear? Because I think it was 3 of them that passed, or 2 and 1
The first 3
didn't.
all had total unanimous support.
I'm fine with tabling D. It sounds like there wasn't a general consensus, and it sounds like there was a conversation, but it would be in the future, if anything.
Correct.
So I think that we correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Mayor, we landed on there's too much going on right now to even discuss that type of switch.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's how I understood it. Okay.
Yeah, so on recommendation number 1, there was unanimous consensus for that. For recommendation number 2 was to direct the city clerk to work on 8 to 10 meetings and return with a schedule as to what that would look like, because we are going to have to amend the bylaws.
And a compensation package.
Right. And recommendation number 3, yes. Recommendation number 4, no, which was the pilot for 1 at large. It was shared with me what the civility statement should be called, and that's a statement of shared respect. And then direction to the city clerk and city attorney to create a mechanism and come back to council to address appointed officials who we may need to discipline, for lack of a better word, in some way. Does that represent the council's discussion this evening? Great.
Yes.
Okay, and with that, let's start voting.
Thank you so
And
much.
it passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all the members of the public who came out and spoke on this item. Really appreciate it. I believe we're on to our last item of the agenda tonight. Item F7, commission appointments and reappointments. My understanding is we only have on tonight's agenda appointments to the commissions, and maybe not all members of this body are ready to do all of their appointments, which is totally fine. But maybe if we can get started.
Yes, so just so the public understands, the reason I didn't include the advisory boards was because we were going to be having this discussion tonight, and I wanted to see where we went with that. So we have, over the last several appointment series, done the directs first, and we didn't move to the at-larges until all the direct appointments were done, and I believe the will of the council is to do that with this reappointment and appointment process. So we will start with the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission. I will just go alphabetically to see which council members are ready. So Councilmember Erickson, you get to go first.
Thank
Are
you.
ready?
I'm reappointing Martin Gantman.
Okay. So, and then with Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Mito Aviles as my commissioner.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Yeah, I'm going to reappoint Kat Lee.
Great. Vice Mayor Heilman.
I'm not ready on this one.
Thank you. And Mayor Byers.
I'm also not ready on this one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So now we'll go to the Business License Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
I'm not ready yet.
Not ready. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Colin LeBron Boyd as my Business License Commissioner. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Yeah, I'm going to reappoint Elise Eisenberg.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hamlin.
I'm going to reappoint Jordan Cockrum.
Thank you. Mayor Byers.
I'm not ready on this one either.
Thank you. Historic Preservation Commission, Councilmember Erickson.
Jacob Satsky.
Okay. And Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. My person said he applied, but I didn't see it on the updated memo.
He's there, Michael King.
No, if it's a direct, he doesn't have to put an
Yeah.
application in. You can just say his name.
No. It was somebody else that applied new.
He doesn't have to apply through the process if he's your direct. You can just say it.
Oh, Mark Edwards to
Oh, yeah,
Historic
you're gonna-
Preservation Commission.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
So, okay. Perfect. Councilmember Meister.
Matt Dubin.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Heilman.
Yauer Charlie.
Thank you.
And
Mayor
Lola
Byers.
Davidson.
Lola, great. Thank you. Human Services Commission, Councilmember Erickson.
Nick Wyville.
Nick Wavel. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Anne Marie Williams as my Human Services Commissioner.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Sarah Adolphson.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Heilman.
I'm not ready on this one.
Thank you. Mayor Byers.
Karen Ayers.
Great. And we are at the LGBTQ plus Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Ron Cortez.
And Ron was here earlier.
I know. Oh, there he's still there. Hi, Ron. Congrats.
Oh, he moved. He moved. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Steve Peñafiel as my LGBTQ plus Commissioner.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Renee Sotil.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Heilman.
Michael Roberts.
Thank you. Mayor Byers.
Amber Whittington.
Thank you. We're getting there. Planning Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Rogerio Cavalario.
Thank you. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint David Gregoire as my Planning Commissioner.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister.
Lynn Hubengarner.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Heilman.
Stacy Jones.
Thank you.
yes,
Mayor Byers.
Andrew Solomon.
Perfect. Public Facilities, Recreation, and Infrastructure Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Callie E. Rogers.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Jonathan Cottrell as my Public Facilities, Recreation, and Infrastructure Commissioner.
Great. Councilmember Meister.
Dorian Jackson.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
Richard Carlos.
Thank you. Mayor Byers.
Nicole Payton.
All right. Public Safety Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Todd Hallman.
Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I would like to appoint Catherine Lee Ang as my Public Safety Commissioner.
Okay. Councilmember Meister.
George Nickel.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Heilman.
Bill Harrison.
And Mayor Byers.
Kelly Pilarski.
Oh, nice.
She's here.
She's talking about pedestrians. Okay. Rent Stabilization Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Rena Goldman, and I know Rena's watching. Congrats, Rena.
Councilmember Hang.
I'm not ready yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meister.
Kim Copeland.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
I'm not ready.
Okay. And Mayor Byers.
Josh Kerpies.
Great. We're in the last one. Transportation and Mobility Commission. Councilmember Erickson.
Jordan David Slack.
Councilmember Hang.
Scott Karinke.
Councilmember Meister.
Stephen Green.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
I'm not ready.
And Mayor Byers.
Helen Krieger.
All right. And we are done with our at-large, or with our directs for tonight. There are still a few. So just for the council and the public, we will continue to bring this item until all of the seats are filled for our 16 commissions and boards.
Yeah.
When is the next meeting of the Business License Commission and the Public Safety Commission? So let's see, what day is it?
So
It's
business-
Monday. It's the March
Business
3rd.
License Commission was scheduled to meet tomorrow. That was their normally scheduled date. They're rescheduling it because they needed additional time to work out. It's a cannabis item that's coming forward. So they're going to have a special meeting, I believe, in next week or the week after. And what was public safety was the other one?
So public safety will be.
So they're the fourth Monday now. They
So-
switched with HPC.
So technically, Kat will have her first meeting
Right.
on the fourth Monday of March. So technically, she won't be on the Business License Commission meeting.
She could still do business license because she hasn't been sworn in to public safety.
Great. Okay, I know who I'm going to appoint for business license. I'll do.
Oh, you're not here on the 17th.
Yeah, well, congrats, public. I'm not here on the 17th. I'm out of town. I'm actually just going to do it, and if he's watching, Joshua Christian is my appointee to the Business License Commission. So I will tell him tomorrow. I told him I would give him a heads up, but that's not happening. So
Okay. Yeah, and I can reach out to Catherine Ng and let her know that she can attend both of those if she's ready to be sworn into public safety.
And then, Madam City Clerk, can we just inform the community that those who were not directly appointed tonight, there's still an at-large
So yeah, what we
possibility
typically
at the next meeting?
Yeah, so what I typically do is if a direct appointee expressed interest in reappointment but was replaced by their appointing council member, they move to the applicant list to be appointed at large if the council would like that. So it'll come March 17th and continue until we are all done for this reappointment cycle.
I know something that was frustrating to the public before was how long it took us to fill some of these seats. So if we could, I think, try our best to have this done sooner rather than later, it would be great. I know no one's to blame. No one's to blame.
Less at-large appointments
Yes,
now.
no, I know, but I think for our own sanity's sake, because I think it was like November and we were still appointing some people.
It was June. I think we
November feels like June, so it's all fine these days. It literally feels like December 2025 right now. But I just hope we all can do that sooner rather than later.
And my office will, send application packets routinely to the council so that you have them available. And if you need us to, we can assist with scheduling interviews for the at-large positions if that would help move it along.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Terrific. That was the last item on the agenda. And congratulations to all the new commissioners. And a big thank you to all the former commissioners or continuing commissioners for your work as well. We really appreciate you. We can move on to the excluded consent calendar, but we don't have anything. Terrific. Is there any final public comment tonight in the room?
3 individuals who have signed up.
Okay. I see Lawrence.
4.
Oh, I'm going to try to get this right this time. Lawrence Chambly. Well done. Yes. And Kimberly Winnick after that, followed by Rick Watts.
Thank you. I didn't budget my 2 minutes before very well, but I have 2 points that I have to make to you. Number one, there's much concern about the expense of time and money on litigation, but there's a provision in state law to short circuit abusive litigation. It's called the SLAP statute, and it's set forth in the letter that I submitted to the council on Saturday. That allows the court, before the litigation starts moving forward with discovery and all that, to rule on whether the litigation is brought for the purpose of suppressing the rights of others. I submit to you that if Soleimani were to bring a lawsuit, we should file a SLAP motion and nip it in the bud. And I respect the discretion that you have, but I would suggest to you that you haven't considered any discussion of a SLAP motion or malicious prosecution motion, and failure to consider relevant avenues of acting can in itself constitute an abuse of discretion. Second point is that a SLAPP suit is a suit brought in bad faith to suppress rights. And in the second part of my letter to the council, I set forth what happened to me after I spoke at the last meeting. And it was that I was assaulted outside the building by a bodyguard for Soleimani. He came up to me, put his hands on me, grabbed me, pulled me close, talked to me in a low voice, and I had to yell at him, "Get your fucking hands off me." That drew a crowd, and he withdrew. That's bad faith. That's consistent with SLAPP behavior.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
comment tonight. Kimberly Winnick, followed by Rick Watts, and George Nickel after that.
Kimberly Winnick, City of West Hollywood. I want to thank particularly Council Member Meister's comments about the disappointment of the neighborhood. We've been working very hard for a very long time. I want to apologize for my intemperance. I know the rules of order. This is incalculably frustrating. I want to urge all of you to please consider how we can perhaps work better with Mr. Soleimani rather than allowing him to come in at the last minute and extort the results that he wants. There are going to be other occasions for our neighborhood and other neighborhoods because he owns so very much land in this city. We need to find a way to work with him so that we don't just have a last-minute change of plan that destroys all of the effort and time and money that are spent to try to accomplish other things. I'll tell you also that I appreciated Council Members Erickson's suggestion that we can, I think it was, I'm sorry, it was the Johns, it was one of you, that we try to find alternative proposals. And in fact, our lead group, who are representatives of West Hollywood West, convened with Mr. Campbell outside and made a suggestion, which unfortunately solicited that we might again be confronted against Mr. Soleimani, which is why I say we need to find a way where we as a city and we as a neighborhood can move forward with some degree of forcefulness and have some effectiveness, because otherwise, Councilmember Meister, you're right, we're just going to give up. It's been an awfully long darn fight to be losing this way. So I want to thank you all very much.
Thank you. Rick Watts, followed by George Nickel, and if anyone else wants to make a comment, now's the time.
Thank you, Council. Rick Watts, City of West Hollywood. In the discussion of the items under F2, one thing you touched on, but I didn't hear further discussion of, was the demands on staff time, and I'm totally sympathetic to that. You know, our staff, you know, they have a lot of meetings to go to, as do you. And I'm wondering if maybe if there can be made a more efficient use of staff within the individual meetings, because I've gone to, for example, I'm liaison to the Older Adults Advisory Board, and between the DAB and the SAB, I see regularly 3 and sometimes as many as 4 staff members. And I'm just wondering if 4 really need to be present, and maybe 2 can still do what needs to be done. I know that, you know, sometimes, you know, we're now having to deal with virtual participation, but if we have 2, maybe one can be kind of handling that and the computers, and the other one taking notes. It's just food for thought, because I don't want them to have to go to, you know, tying up every one of their weeknights as well. I'm fine with the proposal, by the way, of going to 10 meetings, and the DAB at least. We have been doing 11 meetings for a number of years now, because our meeting would otherwise fall, our November meeting would otherwise fall the night before Thanksgiving, we consolidate our November and December meetings. And yeah, I think we would probably welcome having maybe June or July off. So,
Thank you
food for
very
thought.
much.
Thank you.
George Nickel?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. George Nickel, 20-year resident of the city of West Hollywood. Sorry, I don't have anything prepared, but I was watching from home, and I just wanted to come down and correct something. Councilmember Erickson, you said that we no longer had a watch group on the east side. And in fact, the WeHo East watch group is very active, has been active for years. And not only our watch group, but we also have the Ogden Owls, which are directly to our east. Mike Carter's the captain. We coordinate, we work together. And that's important to note because we speak to people in our neighborhoods all the time.
No, you don't.
They come to us. I founded my neighborhood watch group 7 years ago. Ruth Williams is the one who suggested I do it because you know what? The first time I had a problem in the city after having lived here for a long, long time, I went to the Public Safety Commission and I filled out my slip and I stood up and I ranted and raved a little bit and she said, you want to do something, you start a watch group. So I did, and it's now part of the our watch group on the east side, which is the largest in the city except for the West Hollywood Residents Association. And you see the passion tonight. And you see the years of struggle because it's not just public safety. It's also quality of life issues. These are important things. So not only do we listen to residents, and we are residents, we spend a lot of our time. Most of you, you may have even been to our National Night Out. We always put on a great National Night Out. We had a roller skating rink this last year, and we're going to do another great one this year. And I will just say also in January, you made a rather sharp comment when you received the public safety semi-annual report that no one from the watch groups was there. I was watching. We all watch. It's in our name. I know that there was a captain from a watch group in the meeting earlier. She was here, she spoke. So we love serving the city. We do it because we love the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to council member comments and our meeting attendance reports. Well, why don't we get started on this side of the room? I've always thrown it over there. Great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Madam Mayor. In terms of meetings I've attended, I attended the Design District Art Walk. It was really well done. The CPA Executive Team meeting, the Westside Urban Mayors Forum. I stopped by the Homeless Count event. Thank you to Jenny Ivanova who put that on and along with our amazing staff. I attended the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission, the MLK Day of Service event, my Saturday in Plummer Park event, the joint study session with the Planning Commission, Hepatitis C Task Force quarterly meeting, the neighborhood meeting about the Melrose Triangle via Zoom, the California Contract Cities Legislative Committee meeting, the COLA-Me Founders Day celebration and certificate, a PPAL Planned Parenthood coffee meetup, and the Elton John Oscar meeting after event. Additionally, I will not be here at the next council meeting. I'll be out of town. And let me just correct the record a little bit here. The neighborhood watch group you started was started by Ruth Williams. The first time you had a problem with the city was when you called Ruth to help you with the building being built in front of you, and then you called me, and I have the emails to prove it. Ruth Williams started your neighborhood watch group. You did not. Hope you and Steve have a really lovely time doing the East Side Neighborhood Watch Group, but as far as someone who lives on the East Side, it's non-existent, and that's really sad because it became a political entity aimed at making sure you got reelected. I hope and pray in the future that neighborhood watch groups stay inherently non-political. But additionally, that might not seem to be the case. This is not your time to talk. So I hope that in the future, that when history is recreated, the truth matters, because I'm pretty sure there is an issue with some people even believing that Councilmember Hang and I won the election. So in the future, let's make sure that we deal with truth and integrity versus lies and maliciousness.
Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the homeless count in West Hollywood. I stopped by. I attended the Winter Sounds in the sunroom at the Pendry. It was beautiful. It was the first time I attended, and man, that Theo, it was an amazing show. And this past weekend, I also presented a cert to the LGBT family group. They celebrated their 5 years being in West Hollywood. And there were so many LGBTQ families that came with their kids, and these kids were able to see that they were not alone. They have other friends out there that have 2 moms and 2 dads. So it was such a treat for me to celebrate their 5-year anniversary as a founding group. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister. No, sorry.
Okay, I'm not going to yell and scream. I participated in SCAG's Resilience Policy Committee Chair and Vice Chair briefings, which was really interesting. The MLK Day of Service Welcome and the joint study session of City Council and Planning Commission, where my head exploded. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
Your head is still intact.
Yeah,
So,
you're looking great.
I attended the City Council Homeless Subcommittee. I also attended our council meeting, our joint study session. I attended a number of meetings, a number of events in the community. I did want to respond to a comment that Michael Nuttall made earlier regarding HOA voting. I'm on my board, and it is sort of a challenging position to be in because you actually have to live along with your neighbors. His question about voting, he should contact or go to the Davis Sterling website. That has a lot of good information about the voting process. I'm suspecting that the reason the votes weren't counted is that they probably didn't meet their quorum. And with respect to voting in HOA elections, how individuals vote is secret, just like it is for any other election. So he would be able to find out who voted in the election. That is something that he should be able to obtain, but how they voted would not be something that he would be able to obtain. And if the votes weren't counted, it's likely because there was no quorum for that meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your participation in this meeting tonight. I will share my attendance first and then end with some comments. I participated in the California League of Cities LGBTQ officials meeting, the homelessness count. Thank you again to Jenny for managing so many incredible volunteer participation and making sure that happened in a really joyful manner. I was a participant in the homelessness subcommittee and was a participant in the Westside Urban Forum's Mayor's Panel. It's an event that happens every year and was very happy to represent our city and our values alongside the mayors from Santa Monica, Culver City, and Beverly Hills. I also had a chance to meet with the new Consul General from the UK, Paul Rennie. He's here for the next 5 years and very interested in making sure that the international community in his particular home in the UK is well supporting the LGBTQ community. And I really appreciated his discussion, his interest in our Aging in Place plan and what it means to be an inclusive city at this time. So look forward to those ongoing discussions and that relationship building. And then I just wanted to share a couple quick updates. I'm sorry for my colleagues who are very eager to leave, but I wanted to do this on a semi-regular basis throughout the course of my tenure as mayor so folks know what actions being taken outside of this dais to assert West Hollywood's values in the many ways that we have opportunities to. Most of this looks like being asked to sign on to community letters, join alliances, that sort of thing, but I think these are important things to just name and let the public know is happening thanks to the good work of staff and me and folks who are helping me do these things behind the scenes. So first, I signed on to a community letter spearheaded by Equality California opposing California's AB 89 Protect Girls Sports Act by Republican Assemblymember Kate Sanchez. We'll also be writing a city letter in opposition to the author and then copying our assembly member and state senator as well. I signed on to a letter from local leaders to the U.S. Senate and the United States House tax committees to save clean energy tax credits. What's at risk here are 13 local and state tax credit programs, the many, many energy products or projects those tax credits fuel, and the countless jobs held by American workers, and the very real likelihood that costs will increase around the energy market, further burdening the American household. I signed on to a letter spearheaded by the United States Conference of Mayors asking congressional leadership to ensure that the 40 cities who are responsible for hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2026 have the adequate financial support and resources to pay for important things like security and safety. Those burdens at the city level are tremendous, and this should be a joint effort. I joined local and state elected leaders to tell Congress to reject a bill empowering the federal government to block federal funding to sanctuary jurisdictions. That's H.R. 32. And finally, for this update, I joined the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger. Actually, I continued our city's tradition of participating in that alliance, and I signed on to a letter to Congress opposing cuts to SNAP, WIC, and school meals. I would encourage members of the public who have other places that our participation as a city, as mayor, as council members, as community can be made. We are looking forward to it. We know it's a long road ahead, but we will be here every way, making sure West Hollywood's values are loud and proud. And I thank the very many members of the public for being loud and proud tonight about all the things you care about, and look forward to seeing you all back. This meeting will be officially adjourned at 9:44, and we'll see most of you, not Councilmember Erickson, on Monday, March 17th, 2025, 6 p.m., West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers. Thank you all for a great night.
And curator, if you're really truly representing art and culture, I think it's important to invite people from all walks in the queer community.
For me, Pride is always about inspiration. It's about getting people to express themselves in a way that maybe they don't feel comfortable the other 364 days of the year. Just a place where they get to freely be who they are. That is pure inspiration.
Every age range you could imagine is here, and we're all here celebrating